Chapter 2661 Chants. 2661 Chants. Tang Qing'er said, "As far as I know, Hell Lord Frost Springs specially held the consort inauguration ceremony for this woman." HMPH. Tang Kong disagreed. Hell Lord Frost Springs must have been bewitched as well. It's just a woman, how beautiful can she be such that so many people must be mobilized? Hearing this, Tang Qing'er's expression turned complicated and she fell silent. A moment later, she said, "The beauty of this hell consort can indeed be said to be devastatingly alluring and astounding. If I were a man, I would probably be charmed by her as well and might even give up everything for her." This evaluation was too high. If it was said by someone else, Tang Kong would still have some doubts. However, Tang Qing'er was his daughter. Furthermore, Tang Qing'er was a top-tier beauty to begin with. In this aspect, she would definitely be able to compare properly. However, even Tang Qing'er had to admit that she was inferior to this hell consort. Tang Qing'er continued, "I heard that when this hell consort was born from Hell Frost Springs, the centauri ace growing beside the spring avoided her and closed up, feeling ashamed of their inferiority." That's pretty exaggerated. Tang Kong was surprised. He had lived to 800,000 years old and was already calm in this aspect. When he heard the various legends about this hell consort, he felt curious as well. Tang Qing'er nodded. It's said that Hell Lord Frost Springs treats her very well and has been pursuing her for thousands of years. This hell consort has never been willing and Hell Lord Frost Springs has never crossed the line as well. It's just that for some unknown reason, some time ago, Hell Lord Frost Springs suddenly announced that he was going to take in a consort. Perhaps this hell consort was finally touched by his sincerity. Tang Qing'er shifted her gaze to the martial Dao prime body. The martial Dao prime body remained silent the entire time and looked into the distance. It was unknown what he was thinking, as though he had something on his mind. The martial Dao prime body could not help but think of an old friend when he heard the words hell consort and Tang Qing'er's conversation. This old friend had some unforgettable past with him in Tianhuang mainland. This old friend had even saved his life before. Consort Yu of the Great Qian Empire. Of course, the martial Dao prime body knew that the hell consort Tang Qing'er was referring to was a hell consort and could not be the same as consort Yu. However, the two of them sounded the same and were peerless beauties. As such, he could not help but think of this old friend and the past. Back then, Consort Yu had also undergone tribulation transcendence and ascended in Tianhuang mainland. Although the martial Dao prime body did not appear, he paid attention to the entire tribulation transcendence process. Fortunately, there was no danger. All these years, the martial Dao prime body had only found Yang Beichen, Ming Zhan, Demonis Ji, and Dao Yarrow among the old friends from Tianhuang mainland who had ascended. There was no news of the others. "Lord Desolate Marshal?" Tang Kong asked softly at the side, "It's not too late to leave now. The news of the battle at the North Ridge shouldn't have spread to the central capital yet." When Tang Kong saw that the martial Dao prime body was silent, he thought that the latter was feeling regret after seeing Frost Springs City's foundation. "Let's go to the Frost Springs Emperor Palace." The martial Dao prime body put aside some of his past worries for the time being and said, although there had not been an Emperor Realm expert in Frost Springs Hell for many years, Hell Lord Frost Springs Palace still retained its previous title as the Emperor Palace. "We're still going." Tang Kong felt helpless and complained internally. Tang Qing'er's heart skipped a beat as she suddenly said, "Father, Senior Desolate Marshal, this consort inauguration ceremony might be a rare opportunity for us." Tang Kong's eyes lit up and he understood immediately. The consort inauguration ceremony this time round was massive. Any expert with some status and reputation in Frost Springs City would head to the Frost Springs Emperor Palace to watch the ceremony. As for the guards of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace, they would also focus their attention on the consort inauguration ceremony. That way, the forces guarding the teleportation formation would definitely slacken and increase their chances of success. Tang Qing'er continued, however, the teleportation formation is located in the core area of the Emperor Palace and won't be too far away from the consort inauguration ceremony. If we get the chance, We have to act quickly and activate the teleportation formation immediately to leave Frost Springs Hell without any delay. By the time the experts of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace react, we'll definitely die. Tang Kong nodded and a trace of hope reignited in his eyes. No matter what, Tang Chinga's plan was much safer than breaking into the Emperor Palace head-on. If their operation went smoothly, the three of them would indeed have a chance of survival. Lord Desolate Marshal, what do you think? Tang Kong turned around and asked. We'll see. The Marshal Dao Prime Body replied casually and continued in the direction of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace. The three of them advanced and arrived at the Frost Springs Emperor Palace before long. In other areas of Frost Springs City, one could fly in the air. However, in the Frost Springs Emperor Palace, apart from Hell Lord Frost Springs, all other living beings had to descend on the ground. Looking at the entrance of the Emperor Palace before him, Tang Kong took a deep breath. Lord Desolate Marshal, if you enter the Frost Springs Emperor Palace, there's no way out. Before he could finish, the Marshal Dao Prime Body was the first to enter the Emperor Palace. Tang Kong was helpless and could only brace himself to follow. The Marshal Dao Prime Body was his savior. If not for the Marshal Dao Prime Body, the Tang family of the North Ridge, including him, would have been wiped out. Even if there was a mountain of blades, a sea of flames and a bottomless abyss ahead, he had to follow the Marshal Dao Prime Body in. Not long after they entered the Emperor Palace, a shout suddenly sounded from behind. Brother Tang. When he heard that voice, Tang Kong's heart skipped a beat and he cursed internally. He could only stop and turn around. Not far away, hundreds of Hell King experts were walking over. The leader had a terrifying aura and a dignified expression. His gaze was like a torch and his facial features looked similar to the dead young master of the South Forest. Tang Chinga's expression changed when she saw who it was. When Tang Kong turned around, his expression had already returned to normal. He welcomed the person with a smile and cupped his fists. Brother Shintu, how have you been? This group of people was from the South Forest. The leader was King South Forest, Shintu Lang. Shintu Lang approached. Brother Tang, today was your 800,000-year-old birthday banquet. If not for Hell Lord Frost Springs Consort inauguration ceremony, I would have definitely gone to wish you a happy birthday personally. It's fine. Tang Kong had a calm expression as he waved his hand. Compared to the Hell Lord's Consort inauguration ceremony, my birthday banquet is nothing. Shintu Lang smiled. Initially, I thought that you would be focused on holding your birthday banquet in the North Ridge. To think that you would rush over to participate in the Hell Lord's Consort inauguration ceremony as well. By the way, Yinger should have already arrived at the North Ridge. Why didn't he come with the two of you? At the mention of Shintu Ying, Tang Chinga's expression changed slightly and she felt guilty. She avoided Shintu Lang's gaze, not daring to look at him. Shintu Ying had already been killed by the Marshal Dao Prime Body and his essence spirit was destroyed. How could he have followed them over? Tang Kong said, your son is indeed a fine young man. However, there was a small conflict between these two children. His with Hell King South Essence and did not join us. At that moment, Tang Kong's experience and maturity was evident. Against Shintu Lang's question, Tang Kong had a calm expression and did not react at all, as though he did not know that Shintu Ying had died. Even his lie was flawless, as though he had prepared it long ago. Not only that, Tang Kong's words even helped Tang Chinga make up for the flaw that she had just revealed. Chapter 2662 Consort U. 2662 Consort U. Shintu Lang naturally noticed Tang Chinga's abnormality and the panic that flashed across her face. Initially, he was speculating internally. However, when he heard Tang Kong's explanation, he came to a realization and did not think too much about it. Small conflicts between young people can easily be resolved. This is. Shintu Lang's gaze shifted to the Marshal Dao Prime Body. After the Essence Marshal Grotto Heaven devoured a large amount of the Grotto Heaven power of the Hell Kings in the North Ridge, it no longer possessed the same type of living aura of those from the medium Kiliakasm. However, the Marshal Dao Prime Body looked a little strange. He wore a silver mask and only revealed a pair of deep eyes, looking rather mysterious. This is a fellow Daoist I just met. Tang Kong said ambiguously before changing the topic and exchanging pleasantries indifferently. A moment later, Shuntu Lang said, "The consort inauguration ceremony should be starting soon. Let's enter the palace together. Brother Shuntu, please go ahead. I have something else to do and will have to wait for a while." Tang Kong wanted to take advantage of the consort inauguration ceremony to infiltrate the teleportation formation. Naturally, he could not enter the palace with Shuntu Lang. "All right, see you at the consort inauguration ceremony." With that said, Shuntu Lang led the group of Hell King experts from the South Forest towards the main hall of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace. After Shuntu Lang left, Tang Qing'er heaved a sigh of relief. Earlier on, in front of Shuntu Lang, she almost could not withstand the pressure and panic. If Shuntu Lang noticed anything amiss, the three of them could forget about approaching the teleportation formation successfully. "Lord Desolate Marshal, let's go over as well." Tang Kong probed. "This way." Tang Qing'er pointed in a direction. "We can avoid many people on the road here, in case we bump into any familiar faces." The Marshal Dao Prime Body did not mind and merely followed beside Tang Kong and his daughter. Before long, the three of them arrived near the main hall of the Emperor Palace. If they wanted to reach the teleportation formation, they had to pass through a huge square in front of the Emperor Palace's main hall. At that moment, the square was already filled with people. At a glance, it was densely packed and bustling. The consort inauguration ceremony this time round was grand. Not only were many experts from the central capital present, many experts from the East Plains, South Forest and West Swamp arrived as well. Tang Kong stood at the periphery of the square and swept his gaze, spotting 3 territorial lords of the East Plains, South Forest and West Swamp in the crowd. Apart from some guards and maidservants, there was no one else in the main hall. Hell Lord Frost Springs and the new Hell Consort had yet to arrive. Tang Kong had a grim expression. His birthday banquet in the North Ridge was completely insignificant compared to the consort inauguration ceremony before him. There were only a few thousand Hell King experts at his birthday banquet in the North Ridge. At this moment, there were probably tens of thousands of Hell King experts gathered in the square, emitting a terrifying aura as they intertwined in the air. Any living being of Hell who stepped into the square could sense that immense pressure. If the news of the battle at the North Ridge spread to the central capital and the Emperor Palace, their tracks would be exposed as well. At that time, they would be drowned and torn into pieces by the crowd before them. Right then, a gigantic carriage drove over slowly in midair in the distance. In front of the carriage, 9 serpent WMS pulled and hissed continuously into the skies. Their cultivation auras had already reached the level of Hell Kings. 2 figures, a man and a woman, sat in the carriage. The man was dressed in snow-white armor and a thick and heavy sword stood by his feet, emitting a chill. He had a cold expression and a pale face. His eyes were azure like gems and there was a strange rune imprinted on his glabella. It was the word Nether. Hell Lord Frost Springs had descended. Although the Marshal Dao Prime Body had never seen Hell Lord Frost Springs before, apart from this person, no one else could emit such a powerful might. The gaze of the Marshal Dao Prime Body shifted to the face of the woman beside Hell Lord Frost Springs. The Marshal Dao Prime Body narrowed his eyes slightly and his expression changed beneath the Mara mask. If he was not wrong, this woman should be Hell Lord Frost Springs' soon-to-be Hell Consort. Indeed, this Hell Consort was extremely beautiful. Anyone who saw this woman would sigh at the wonders of creation in the world. Many living beings in the square, regardless of gender or cultivation, held their breaths instinctively when they saw the Hell Consort and could not shift their gazes away for a moment. However, that was not enough to tempt the Marshal Dao Prime Body. To his surprise, this Hell Consort was almost identical to Consort Yu of Tianhuang Mainland in terms of looks and figure. The only difference was that there was a strange nether rune imprinted on the forehead of the Hell Consort. How could this be? Instantly, many questions flashed through the mind of the Marshal Dao Prime Body. Could this Hell Consort and Consort Yu of Tianhuang Mainland be the same person? If they were not the same person, why did they look identical? Even their auras were almost identical. However, if they were the same person, what could explain the scene before him? In Tianhuang Mainland, He had personally witnessed Consort Yu undergo tribulation transcendence and ascend. Why would Consort Hel come to the Hell world? What exactly did she experience after she ascended that caused her to be transformed in the Hell Frost Springs and become a member of the ancient Nether race? Or perhaps, could living beings from minor kiliocosms ascend directly into the Hell world? But how was that possible? Even between the medium kiliocosm and the Hell world, there was an indestructible barrier. How could the living beings of the minor kiliocosm ascend directly into the Hell world? Countless questions lingered in the heart of the martial Dao prime body. More importantly, even if the person before him was Consort Yu of Tianhuang mainland, did she still have her past memories after undergoing the transformation of the Hell Frost Springs? Tang Qing'er was a woman after all and had seen the Hell Consort before, so she was the first to come back to her senses. She glanced sideways and saw the martial Dao prime body staring fixedly at the Hell Consort with a strange gaze. She could not help but purse her lips and mutter softly, "Seems like you're not immune either." Tang Kong had a conflicted expression and wanted to say something but hesitated. There's actually such a woman in the world. Seriously. If he could be hundreds of thousands of years younger, he would even fight Hell Lord Frost Springs to the death for this Hell Consort. Stop looking, the two of you. Tang Qing'er sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. This is the best opportunity. Everyone in the square is focused on the Hell Consort. We can leave this place now. Tang Kong's heart skipped a beat as though he had woken up from a dream. That's right. Lord Desolate Marshal, let's take this opportunity to leave this place quickly. There's a high chance of success if we head to the teleportation formation now. The Martial Dao prime body remained silent, as though he did not hear anything. He continued to look at Hell Consort in the carriage. Tang Kong and his daughter exchanged glances with helpless expressions. The two of them thought that the Martial Dao prime body was already obsessed with the beauty of the Hell Consort and could not extricate himself. Tang Kong was anxious and urged, "Lord Desolate Marshal, are you still leaving? This is a rare opportunity and if we miss it, something else might happen." "I'm not leaving," the Martial Dao prime body said indifferently. In a flash, he arrived in midair and headed towards the carriage at the front of the square. No matter who this Hell Consort was, he had to get to the bottom of it. Chapter 2663, 2663 He's here. 2663 He's here. What was he trying to do? Tang Kong was shocked. The three of them hid at the back of the crowd and would not be noticed for the time being. Now that the Martial Dao prime body had soared into the air, his tracks would definitely be exposed. Sigh. Tang Kong struggled internally and resisted the urge to turn around and escape, sighing helplessly. Tang Qing'er was confused as well, not understanding the intentions of the Martial Dao prime body. In the square, many heroes were gathered and the tens of thousands of Hell King experts could only stand on the ground. By flying through the air above the heads of the Hell King experts, the Martial Dao prime body instantly attracted gazes and hostility. Reporting in. Right then, a group of Emperor Palace guards sped over with anxious expressions, as though something major had happened. The group of guards sped through midair and crossed the square. Right now, it was the consort inauguration ceremony and the appearance of the Emperor Palace guards was way too sudden, attracting the attention of many experts in the square. Hell Lord Frost Springs' carriage had just descended in the hall and the Emperor Palace guards were about to arrive as well. "What is it?" Hell Lord Frost Springs did not stand up and asked indifferently. A commander of the Emperor Palace said in a deep voice, "Hell Lord, Ming Feng and more than 10 Nether Kings have all died in the North Ridge. King North Ridge has colluded with an outsider from the medium kiliocosm and has already defected. His whereabouts are unknown." Hell Lord Frost Springs narrowed his eyes slightly. Once the news was out, a commotion broke out in the square as well. What's going on? A living being from the medium kiliocosm has descended. King North Ridge truly has a death wish. How dare he betray Frost Springs Hell? The clamor in the square grew louder. Tang Kong, who was hiding at the back, was uneasy and felt an unprecedented pressure. The expression of the King South Forest, Shuntu Lang, changed slightly. King North Ridge defected. He had just bumped into Tang Kong in the Emperor Palace. What was going on? Right then, Another figure sped over. It was Hell King South Essence. Hell King, bad news. Hell King South Essence rushed in front of Shuntu Lang and knelt down, saying tragically, King North Ridge betrayed us and the young master was killed tragically. What? Shuntu Ying was enraged and his gaze was sharp. He reacted quickly and said to Hell Lord Frost Springs in a deep voice, Hell Lord, I just saw King North Ridge at the entrance of the Emperor Palace. I'm guessing that Tang Kong, that traitor, wants to take advantage of the consort inauguration ceremony to escape using the teleportation formation of Frost Springs Hell. Hell Lord, please handle this quickly or it'll be too late. Hell Lord Frost Springs had a calm expression as he said unhurriedly, the teleportation formation is heavily guarded. Without my orders, no one can approach. Tang Kong sighed internally when he heard that. From the looks of it, even if the situation before them had not developed to such an extent, it was unlikely that they would have been able to leave Frost Springs Hell even if they managed to arrive at the teleportation formation. Hell Lord Frost Springs was extremely calm. He looked at the commander of the Emperor Palace ahead and asked, given Tang Kong's combat strength, how could he have killed Ming Feng and the others? It wasn't Tang Kong. Hell King South Essence replied first, I was there at that time. Tang Kong was already severely injured by Lord Ming Feng. It was that cultivator from the medium Kiliakasm who attacked and killed Lord Ming Feng and the others. Oh! Hell Lord Frost Springs raised his brow slightly. To be able to kill Ming Feng and more than 10 other Nether Kings, this person is rather capable. Did he condense a perfected grotto heaven? At the mention of that, Hell King South Essence had a strange expression as he shook his head. It's not a perfected grotto heaven. It should be a minor grotto heaven. However, it can continuously devour the power of other grotto heavens. Back then, thousands of Hell King experts attacked, but they could not defend against the devouring of his dark grotto heaven. Impossible. Hell Lord Frost Springs said resolutely, how can someone with a minor grotto heaven kill Nether Kings of our ancient Nether race? The commander of the Emperor Palace said in a deep voice, Hell Lord, I'm willing to lead the Imperial Army in the palace to conquer the North Ridge and search for Tang Kong and the other traitors. I'll kill the outsider. There's no hurry. Hell Lord Frost Springs waved it off. A few rotten fish and shrimps won't be able to escape from me. I'll handle this matter personally after the consort inauguration ceremony today. What characteristics does that outsider have? Get someone to draw it and hunt him down in the entire hell. Hell King South Essence said, that person is very easy to recognize. He's wearing a purple robe and a silver mask. I think he's desolate marshal or something. Upon hearing that word, a ripple appeared in the eyes of the Hell Consort who was initially motionless and expressionless in the carriage. Purple robe and silver mask. Many Hell King experts shifted their gazes and looked at the cultivator who was flying in midair instinctively. Hell King South Essence looked over instinctively as well. When he saw the Martial Dao Prime body, Hell King South Essence shuddered as though he had seen a ghost. He was so frightened that he almost fell from midair with endless fear in his eyes. Etchi! He's here. Hell King South Essence pointed at the Martial Dao Prime body who was striding over with a trembling voice. Hell Lord Frost Springs' gaze landed on the Martial Dao Prime body as well with a playful glint in his eyes. Were you the one who killed Yinger? Shuntu Lang stood up slowly and stood in front of the Martial Dao Prime body. His gaze was cold as he glared into the eyes of the latter and asked slowly, Lord, he's the one. Hell King South Essence gulped and said with a trembling voice, I want you to pay with your life for my son. Shuntu Lang roared and his blood chi surged. The void behind him collapsed as he wanted to prop up his major grotto heaven and kill the Martial Dao Prime body. According to the news just now, Shuntu Lang realized how powerful the Martial Dao Prime body was. Therefore, he attacked with all his might without holding back. However, the Martial Dao Prime body's attack was even faster. Before Shuntu Lang could finish, the Martial Dao Prime body had already arrived in front of him. His blood chi surged and he raised his fist with a shocking punch. Instantly, the world changed. Before Shuntu Lang's blood chi could circulate, it was completely suppressed by the blood chi of the Martial Dao Prime body. Before the grotto heaven behind him could hold on, it was shattered by a single punch from the Martial Dao Prime body. Bang! Right in front of everyone, Shuntu Lang was blasted apart by a single punch from the martial Dao Prime body and turned into a blood mist that filled the air. King South Forest was beaten until his essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse left. If Shuntu Lang released his bloodline phenomenon and grotto heaven completely, he might be able to defend against the punch of the martial Dao Prime body. Unfortunately, he spent too much time talking. The martial Dao Prime body did not say a word and punched forward, blowing him up. The entire square fell silent instantly. Many living beings of Hell and Hell King experts widened their eyes in disbelief. In the Frost Springs Emperor Palace, in front of Hell Lord Frost Springs and surrounded by tens of thousands of Hell King experts, the purple-robed man actually dared to kill in public. Furthermore, he killed King South Forest with a single punch. Tang Kong and his daughter had long seen the methods of the martial Dao Prime body. However, they were still shocked when they saw that this person from the medium Kiliakasm was even more domineering than the living beings of Hell. No matter who they were or what their statuses were, as long as they provoked him, he would smash them without hesitation. Chapter 2664, 2664 Fighting the Hell Lord. 2664 Fighting the Hell Lord. How dare you? The Emperor Palace commander in the hall had a furious expression and hollered, "How dare you kill someone in the Frost Springs Emperor Palace? Die." Right then, Hell Lord Frost Springs glared and raised his hand slightly to stop the Emperor Palace commander. Hell Lord Frost Springs did not want to kill the martial Dao Prime body casually. In his eyes, the martial Dao Prime body was a gigantic treasure. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for living beings of the medium Kiliakasm to come to the Hell world. For the purple-robed man to be able to come here, there must be something special about him. The Hell world had fallen into the Dharma ending era and had not produced an Emperor Realm expert for many years. Hell Lord Frost Springs vaguely sensed an opportunity from the martial Dao Prime body. Perhaps he could find a dharmic formulation to advance to the Emperor Realm from the purple-robed man. If he could step into the Emperor Realm and become the only Emperor expert of the Hell world, he would become the Lord of Hell revered by the 9 Hells and rule over the Hell world. Without Hell Lord Frost Springs' orders, it was not appropriate for the others to attack. Right in front of everyone, the martial Dao Prime body arrived before the 9WMS carriage successfully. "You're from the medium Kiliakasm?" Hell Lord Frost Springs glared at the martial Dao Prime body and leaned on the cold gigantic sword by his feet as he asked slowly. The martial Dao Prime body did not even look at Hell Lord Frost Springs. He merely looked at the beautiful woman in the carriage and asked softly, "True Jade?" Consort Yu's name in Tianhuang mainland was True Jade. However, very few people knew about it. Furthermore, this time round, the martial Dao Prime body did not hide his voice. When she heard that name, a hint of fluctuation flashed through the woman's eyes. She looked at the martial Dao Prime body with a bewildered expression. The voice sounded familiar. However, she was not sure and could not believe it. The woman remained motionless and silent. "You two know each other?" Hell Lord Frost Springs frowned. The martial Dao Prime body ignored him and removed the Mara mask, revealing a refined face. The woman's eyes widened in surprise and disbelief. However, although she tried her best to open her mouth, she could not make a sound. When he saw the woman's reaction, the martial Dao Prime body no longer had any doubts. The woman before him was Consort Yu. It was not that Consort Yu was unwilling to speak, but she was bound by some sort of restriction and could not move or even make a sound. The martial Dao Prime body had too many questions about Consort Yu. However, now was not the time to ask. The martial Dao Prime body had a cold expression as he put on the Mara mask once more. His gaze shifted and he finally looked at Hell Lord Frost Springs at the side. "Your consort inauguration ceremony is to place all sorts of restrictions on her and prevent her from resisting?" The martial Dao Prime body asked indifferently with a calm tone. The martial Dao Prime body had ignored Hell Lord Frost Springs twice previously. The latter did not seem to be angry and merely had a sinister smile on his face. "So what if it is?" Hell Lord Frost Springs raised his brow slightly with a mocking expression and asked, "Could it be that you want to uphold justice for her? Or do you want to challenge me? Ha 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 ha. Take a look." This cultivator from the medium chiliocosm has come to our Frost Springs hell to fight for injustice. What do you mean by fighting for injustice? I think he's just bewitched by the hell consort and lost his mind. He actually went to make a fuss right in front of the Hell Lord. Laughter sounded from the square. Well done. The Martial Dao Prime Body nodded. Since you admit it, I'll beat you to death. Before his sentence was finished, the Martial Dao Prime Body strode forward and an ancient bronze square tripod suddenly flew out from his glabella. It expanded instantly and landed in his palm. Emperor Weapon, the Hell Suppression Tripod. The Martial Dao Prime Body raised the Hell Suppression Tripod and smashed it towards the top of Hell Lord Frost Springs' head. This time round, the Martial Dao Prime Body did not release the essence Martial Grotto Heaven. Hell Lord Frost Springs' Grotto Heaven had already been cultivated to the perfected realm and his essence Martial Grotto Heaven might not be able to defend against it. Under normal circumstances, the Martial Dao Prime Body rarely used weapons to kill. But now, the reason why he summoned the Emperor Weapon, the Hell Suppression Tripod, was to kill Hell Lord Frost Springs right away. After getting rid of Hell Lord Frost Springs, the greatest threat, although there were still tens of thousands of Hell King experts around, they would be scattered in a mess and were nothing to be afraid of. How dare you? Hell Lord Frost Springs was enraged. Ever since he became Hell Lord Frost Springs and ruled over a hell, it had been many years since anyone dared to use weapons in front of him. But now, even with tens of thousands of Hell King experts below, an outsider from the medium chiliocosm actually dared to attack him. Hell Lord Frost Springs' reaction was extremely fast as well. The moment the Martial Dao Prime Body charged forward, he raised his Frost Springs Hell Sword in his hand and slashed towards the Hell Suppression Tripod. Break! Hell Lord Frost Springs hollered. The Frost Springs Hell Sword was nourished and tempered in the Hell Frost Springs all year round and nurtured the powerful power of the Hell Frost Springs with a bone-chilling chill. Grotto Heaven spirit treasures of the same cultivation realm could not defend against the sharpness of his Frost Springs Hell Sword. For example, a Grotto Heaven spirit treasure nurtured by a minor Grotto Heaven could not even defend against the might of his single strike. The Martial Dao Prime Body indeed merely possessed a minor Grotto Heaven. However, the Hell Suppression Tripod was not a spirit treasure nurtured by a minor Grotto Heaven, it was a great Emperor weapon of the ancient era. Clang! The Frost Springs Hell Sword collided with the Hell Suppression Tripod with an ear-piercing sound. Immediately after, a layer of frost covered the Hell Suppression Tripod in the blink of an eye and froze, as though it had turned into an ice sculpture. Ha 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 ha. Hell Lord Frost Springs burst into laughter. How dare you show off this lousy metal before me? The Martial Dao Prime Body had a calm expression as he channeled his spirit consciousness to awaken the sacred souls in the Hell Suppression Tripod. Grr! Roar! Shriek! Hiss! Suddenly, 4 earth-shaking howls sounded from the Hell Suppression Tripod. Immediately after, the surface of the Hell Suppression Tripod shone with a blinding light. On the walls of the tripod, 4 terrifying beasts came to life and broke through the ice. Hell Lord Frost Springs was alarmed. The auras of the 4 sacred beasts were extremely powerful. The powerful might emitted by the sacred beasts descended on the hall and suppressed the 9 serpent WMS in front of the carriage to the point of not daring to move. The 4 sacred beasts awakened at the same time and charged towards Hell Lord Frost Springs. Boom! 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 Against the impact of the 4 sacred beasts, the gigantic carriage collapsed as well. The restrictions on the carriage dissipated silently and Consort Yu regained her freedom. The Martial Dao Prime Body waved his robes and brought Consort Yu out of the carriage, placing her behind him. At that moment, the 4 sacred beasts had already charged towards Hell Lord Frost Springs. The azure dragon circled, the white tiger roared, the vermilion bird bathed in flames and the black tortoise stepped on the wave. As the cultivation realm of the Martial Dao Prime Body rose, the Hell Suppression Tripod's strength rose rapidly under the nourishment of his minor Grotto Heaven. After the baptism of the 10 heavenly tribulations, the souls of the 4 sacred beasts underwent a rebirth and a transformation, becoming even stronger than they were during the Infinite Era. Right now, the power of the 4 sacred souls had already reached the Grotto Heaven realm. Against the attacks of the 4 sacred souls, Hell Lord Frost Springs could not defend against them and wanted to channel the bloodline of the ancient Nether race. However, the 4 sacred souls emitted the bloodline aura of the 4 sacred beasts as well. Under the suppression of the bloodline auras of the 4 sacred beasts, Hell Lord Frost Springs' ancient Nether bloodline was suppressed and circulated slowly. Chapter 2665 Massacre. 2665 Massacre. Boom. Hell Lord Frost Springs could not release his bloodline phenomenon for the time being and could only prop up his perfected grotto heaven first, wanting to devour the 4 sacred souls. Right then, the martial Tao prime body wielded the Hell suppression tripod and smashed it towards Hell Lord Frost Springs' perfected grotto heaven like a god. Boom. There was a loud bang. Hell Lord Frost Springs' perfected grotto heaven swayed violently and let out a faint cracking sound. The blood chi in the body of the martial Tao prime body surged and his eyes burned with purple flames. His body seemed to have transformed into a furnace that were filled with raging flames and descended from the skies with a scarlet heat. Boom. 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 The martial Tao prime body transformed into the heaven and earth furnace and combined it with the Hell suppression tripod. He even opened up the essence martial grotto heaven and smashed it down one after another without giving Hell Lord Frost Springs any chance to catch his breath. Coupled with the entanglement attacks of the 4 sacred souls, Hell Lord Frost Springs could not even find a chance to leave the battlefield and retreat. The attacks of the martial Tao prime body were way too ferocious. That attack released almost all of his trump card. His bloodline phenomenon, the essence martial grotto heaven and even the emperor weapon, the Hell suppression tripod. There were still tens of thousands of Hell King experts surrounding him. The martial Tao prime body had to kill Hell Lord Frost Springs immediately and get rid of this greatest threat to stabilize the situation. Crack. Crack. The moment Hell Lord Frost Springs' perfected grotto heaven was propped up, it was shattered by a series of attacks from the martial Tao prime body and exploded on the spot. At that moment, the Hell suppression tripod floated above Hell Lord Frost Springs' head and Sanskrit sounded from it incessantly in a divine and vast manner. Beside Hell Lord Frost Springs, the 4 sacred souls could not help but reveal the figures of Buddhas and the cries of dragons and elephant. In the hands of the martial Tao prime body, the Hell suppression tripod finally displayed the power of an emperor weapon and was no longer used for simple attacks such as smashing someone. Hell Lord Frost Springs spat out blood and his face turned even paler. The attacks of the martial Tao prime body were way too ferocious. Without the protection of his perfected grotto heaven, he could not defend against the continuous attacks of the heaven and earth furnace and Hell suppression tripod. Right in front of everyone, Hell Lord Frost Springs was surrounded by a blazing furnace and 4 sacred souls. The bronze tripod that shone with a blinding golden light shattered him into pieces. Before Hell Lord Frost Springs' essence spirit could escape, it was devoured by the heaven and earth furnace of the martial Tao prime body and burned to ashes instantly. Hell Lord Frost Springs was dead. The entire process happened too quickly and many Hell Kings were still stunned on the spot. Their eyes widened in shock and disbelief. There were many Hell King experts present but no one expected Hell Lord Frost Springs to be killed by the martial Tao prime body in a few breaths. Even the guards of the Emperor Palace did not have the time to attack. That was because earlier on, they wanted to attack the martial Tao prime body but were stopped by Hell Lord Frost Springs. Everyone thought that the Hell Lord definitely had other intentions. However, to think that Hell Lord Frost Springs would be dead in the blink of an eye. Well. At the back of the square, Tang Kong muttered when he saw that, he actually killed the Hell Lord. The death of Hell Lord Frost Springs was a good thing for him and the Tang family. Because Hell Lord Frost Springs was dead, the entire Frost Springs Hell was without a leader and would definitely fall into chaos as experts fought for the position of the Hell Lord. At that time, no one would mobilize a huge force to hunt him down. He seems to be old friends with the Hell Consort. Because the Hell Lord imprisoned the Hell Consort, in his rage, Tang Chinga's expression was conflicted when she saw that. She was both envious and afraid. It was only now that she realized how terrifying this cultivator from the medium Kiliakasm whom she bumped into unintentionally was. Given the situation, even the entire Frost Springs Hell might not be able to suppress him, let alone the North Ridge. Kill him and take revenge for the Hell Lord. The commander of the Emperor Palace in the lead reacted immediately and waved his arm. At the same time, he took out a communication talisman from his storage bag and released it to gather the Imperial Army of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace. Whoever can kill this person will be the new Hell Lord Frost Springs, someone shouted from the crowd. That voice seemed to have stirred up 1,000 waves. The Hell King experts in the square glared at the martial Dao Prime body in the hall with a murderous aura. Everyone was afraid of Hell Lord Frost Springs and did not dare to disobey. It was not only because Hell Lord Frost Springs was powerful to begin with, but also because there were already a large number of Hell Kings and Nether King experts gathered under him. Furthermore, Hell Lord Frost Springs had the ancient Nether race of Frost Springs Hell backing him. Unless other Nether Kings of the Nether ancient race rose, no one would be able to challenge his status as Hell Lord Frost Springs. The other living beings of Hell had no chance at all. Right now, although the martial Dao Prime body had killed Hell Lord Frost Springs, he was alone. There were tens of thousands of Hell King experts present. Thereafter, Nether King experts of the ancient Nether race would arrive and billions of Hell troops would gather. In the eyes of many living beings of Hell, the martial Dao Prime body was alone and weak. However, they had the entire Frost Springs Hell. Even though the martial Dao Prime body had just displayed his powerful combat strength, many living beings of Hell present were not afraid at all. Instead, they were extremely excited and wanted to take advantage of the chaotic world to rise and take over the Emperor Palace. Kill. Many living beings of Hell shouted from the crowd. Retreat to the hall. The martial Dao Prime body sent Consort Yu into the hall behind him. Thereafter, he stood in front of the hall and faced the surging living beings of Hell alone, letting out an earth-shaking roar. Roar. The martial Dao Prime body opened his mouth and released his sound domain secret skill, Myriad Beings Sound. Instantly, the figures of billions of living beings seemed to appear behind the martial Dao Prime body and shouted together with him in a deafening manner. The Myriad Beings Sound coupled with the blood chi of the martial Dao Prime body released incomparable lethality. Poof. 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 Although most of the experts who charged forward were Hell Kings, some of them with weak physiques, ordinary bloodlines, and insufficient cultivation realms were shattered on the spot by the impact of the Myriad Beings Sound and turned into a blood mist, their essence spirits and bodies destroy. Some Hell King experts could defend against it. However, they were severely injured and bled from their 7 orifices. Only Hell Kings and Nether King experts with major grotto heavens could stabilize themselves and survive after releasing their bloodline phenomenons or condensing their major grotto heavens. Many living beings of Hell surged over like a black torrent. However, after being roared by the Myriad Beings Sound of the martial Dao Prime body, the black torrent paused and even showed signs of stopping. The martial Dao Prime body threw out the Hell suppression tripod and smashed into the crowd. The 4 sacred souls surged through the black torrent at the same time and started a massacre, galloping unhindered. At the same time, the martial Dao Prime body channeled his essence spirit and released dharmic arts continuously. Red Lotus Karmic Fire. Suddenly, scarlet flames burst out from the bodies of many living beings of Hell and burned their flesh. Many living beings of Hell let out tragic cries. Before the attacks of the martial Dao Prime body could stop, pitch-black flames suddenly spread out from beneath his feet and burned towards the black torrent ahead. Chapter 2666, 2666 Martial Dao Will. 2666 Martial Dao Will. The 2 flames, the Red Lotus Karmic Fire and Hellfire, charged into the black torrent of living beings of Hell and released extremely terrifying lethality. Hellfire came from Avicii and contained the pain-true intent of billions of living beings. The living beings of Hell were in immense pain and were utterly defeated by the Hellfire. Even Hell Kings and Nether King experts who had condensed major grotto heavens were struggling to hold on. What surprised the martial Dao Prime body was that the one who truly caused immense damage to the living beings of Hell was not the Hellfire, but the Red Lotus Karmic Fire. The Red Lotus Karmic Fire burned negative karma and could even refine divine powers. In the minor and medium kiliocosms, it could unleash terrifying might. And now, after the Red Lotus Karmic Fire was released in Frost Springs Hell, It sensed the surrounding nether chi and the flames intensified, increasing its might. Hundreds of thousands of Hell King experts were burned to ashes by the Red Lotus karmic fire, and their essence spirits and bodies were destroyed. The feeling was as though spirit chi and heaven and earth essence chi were not enough to unleash the true power of the Red Lotus karmic fire. Only nether chi could unleash the might of the Red Lotus karmic fire to its limit. Could the origin of the Red Lotus karmic fire have originated from the Hell world? A question flashed through the mind of the martial Tao prime body. However, the battle was in full swing and he had no time to be distracted. The Nether Kings of the ancient Nether race gradually could not withstand the burning of the Red Lotus karmic fire. Nether King experts who condensed major grotto heavens could forcibly hold on. However, Red Lotus karmic fire surged out of the bodies of some Nether Kings with minor grotto heavens. Even their bloodlines could not suppress it. Not only that, when they released their bloodline phenomenons, the Red Lotus karmic fire in their bodies burned even more ferociously. The martial Tao prime body channeled his bloodline and emitted a scorching heat, charging into the crowd like a gigantic furnace that was burning red. Bang! 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 Under the burning of the Red Lotus karmic fire and hellfire, the living beings of hell in the square were either dead or severely injured. In this situation, no one could stop the footsteps of the martial Tao prime body. Boom! The martial Tao prime body punched over and exploded the bodies of a few Hell King experts. He pushed forward with an unstoppable might. Tens of thousands of Hell King experts and the Nether Kings of the ancient Nether race were defeated by the impact of the martial Tao prime body. They wailed and blood flowed like rivers. Bang! Boom! Not far away, the sound of thunderous iron hooves sounded as a large black cloud surged over. Banners swayed and cold armor shone. Countless troops from the Hell army were charging over. Tang Kong and Tang Chinga had long hidden outside the battlefield. When they saw this scene from afar, they were shocked. Is he going to go against the entire Frost Springs Hell alone? Tang Chinga asked in disbelief. Tang Kong gulped and tried his best to suppress the shock in his heart as he said slowly, "He's not going against. He might be suppressing Frost Springs Hell." Tang Chinga shuddered and murmured, "Is that possible?" Frost Springs Hell was one of the 9 hells after all. There were countless living beings in hell. Could an outsider suppress them all? Nothing's impossible. Tang Kong said, "The only way to reach the top in Frost Springs Hell is by matching their bloodthirst and violence with equivalent bloodthirst and violence." Even living beings of hell and experts of the ancient Nether race had to use extraordinary methods to rise in Frost Springs Hell. They had to bleed and step on endless corpses. Furthermore, the martial Tao prime body came from the medium Kiliakasm. The living beings of hell were born with hatred towards the people of the medium Kiliakasm. To make these living beings of hell submit, the only way was through a baptism of blood and killing. There was another treasure on the martial Tao prime body, the Netherworld treasure mirror. The lethality of the Netherworld treasure mirror was extremely terrifying. However, the treasure itself exuded an evil aura. It had been used once in the North Ridge and the martial Tao prime body was wary of it as well. Unless he had no choice, he did not intend to summon the Netherworld treasure mirror. Against the charging Hell army, the martial Tao prime body was fearless. He channeled his essence spirit and narrowed the range of the Hellfire and Red Lotus karmic fire, forming a restricted zone barrier around him. Any living being of hell who stepped into this forbidden zone would suffer the burning of the 2 flames. The martial Tao prime body realized that he might face a long battle. The living beings of hell in Frost Springs Hell would definitely not submit easily. The army formed by billions of living beings of hell attacked the forbidden zone of flames ahead again and again, leaving behind countless corpses and ashes. The martial Tao prime body wielded the hell suppression tripod and was surrounded by 4 sacred souls. He went on a killing spree and was invincible. Kill, kill, kill. The chants of murder and bugles sounded from the Hell army. He's only one person. If we attack and kill continuously, we can exhaust him to death if we have to. How can outsiders take over Frost Springs Hell? The will of Hell cannot be bullied. Many living beings of Hell roared. The battle started from the consort inauguration ceremony in the morning and lasted until evening. Although the attacks of the Hell Army were a little weak, they did not stop. If the martial Tao Prime body was from Frost Springs Hell, the living beings of Hell might have submitted long ago. However, the martial Tao Prime body was not from Hell. That was completely unacceptable to the living beings of Hell. The flames of war spread continuously and the entire Frost Springs Emperor Palace was enveloped in flames. Thick smoke billowed and blood chi surged as corpses littered the ground. The martial Tao Prime body turned the Frost Springs Emperor Palace into a blazing purgatory. This battle lasted for an entire day and night. Neither side retreated. Tang Kong and Chinga stood outside the Emperor Palace and watched the tragic battle without leaving. Up till this point of the battle, it was no longer a simple battle of strength. This was a battle of wills. The martial Tao Prime body was resisting the will of the billions of living beings in Frost Springs Hell. Although the attacks of the Hell Army had yet to stop, the seeds of fear had already been planted in the hearts of many living beings of Hell. The figure fighting in the flames ahead was like an indefatigable god of war who killed in all directions and stood tall. Every living being of Hell felt a sense of helplessness. That person seemed to be an existence that could not be defended against or defeated. Even after the billions of living beings of Hell condensed their will, they could not shake that figure. In reality, on the side of the martial Tao Prime body, be it stamina, blood chi, or essence spirit, they had already reached their limits. If not for the fact that he used the heaven and earth furnace to smelt dharmic arts all year round, temper his body and condense a perfected true martial Tao body, he would definitely not have been able to last until now. Both parties had already reached their limits. Any external force could change the entire situation. After fighting for a day and night, although the stamina of the martial Tao Prime body had reached his limits, his will was still unshakable. Although he seemed to be alone, he had once established the martial Tao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. The martial Tao civilization he represented contained the faith and will of countless people of the martial Tao and the hopes of countless ordinary living beings. Those faith, will and hope were indelible and eternal. Chapter 2667, 2667 Supreme Notoriety. 2667 Supreme Notoriety. In the battle that lasted for a day and night, the martial Tao Prime body sorted out his own dharmic Tao while fighting. Looking at the large forbidden zone formed by the Red Lotus karmic fire and hellfire, he could not help but recall the scene of the Builder Tree showing its might when it woke up. The Builder Tree released a green halo that enveloped everything within a radius of 50 kilometers. Under the envelopment of the green halo, all cultivators, including Immortal King experts, were greatly restricted and could not even break through the void to escape. Within the range of the green halo, the Builder Tree was the only god. The green halo released by the Builder Tree was similar to the Forbidden Zone barrier formed by the two great flames of the martial Tao Prime body. The future of the martial Tao became clearer and gradually took shape in the Prime body's mind. What the martial Tao Prime body wanted to do was to end this battle and cultivate in seclusion. He wanted to sort out his dharmic Tao and take the final step. Up till this point of the battle, both parties had reached their limits. The martial Tao Prime body took a deep breath of air and looked at the many living beings of Hell who were still charging ahead. He channeled his essence spirit and conjured hand seals repeatedly with both hands. A gigantic door surrounded by black chi appeared behind him. The door was like a dark abyss, like an ancient behemoth that could devour everything with its bloody mouth. After the martial Tao Prime body controlled the Hell suppression tripod, he once used a supreme dharmic Tao to create a Hell's Gate. Back when the martial Tao Prime body underwent tribulation transcendence, he had yet to completely control the secret skill. It merely contained a trace of grotto heaven power. The Hell's Gate that was condensed was only in the form of a grotto heaven and did not have the will of a grotto heaven. Even so, he could defend against the 10th heavenly tribulation with the help of that Hell's Gate. But now, the martial Tao Prime body had complete control over the power of the grotto heaven. The Hell's Gate evolved once more and advanced another level, transforming into the Avicii Gate. The door shrouded in black chi before him was identical to the door of Greater Avicii. In fact, endless Avicii chi surged from it, filled with the pain-true intent of billions of living beings as it swept towards the massive Hell army ahead. The martial Dao Prime Body erected the Avachi Gate in front of him to stop the Hell Army. The endless troops in the Hell Army were devoured by the Avachi Gate and vanished completely, suppress. Together with the Avachi Gate, the Forbidden Zone of Flames caused the greatest amount of damage to the endless Hell Army. In the fiery region ahead, the endless abyss surrounded by black chi was like an insurmountable barrier that would kill anyone who crossed it. The battle lasted for a day and night, and the spirit of the army of hell living beings had already reached their limits. The descent of the Avachi Gate became the last straw that crushed the many living beings of hell. The living beings of hell were ferocious and bloodthirsty. They did not mind dying. However, even though they knew that they would definitely die and could not see any hope of survival, the living beings of hell could feel terror and fear. Too many living beings of hell in Frost Springs Hell died in this battle. Corpses piled around the main hall of the Emperor Palace, forming continuous mountain ranges with endless blood flowing at the foot of the corpse mountains. Those were only corpses visible to the naked eye. There were also countless living beings of hell who were burned to death by the two flames of the martial Dao Prime Body. The later generations of the Hell world calculated that more than 20,000 Hell King experts in Frost Springs Hell died in this battle alone, including other living beings of hell. A conservative estimate would place that figure more than 100 million. The Frost Springs Emperor Palace had already turned into a fiery hell with flames of war burning everywhere. Even from outside the Emperor Palace, one could see the blood-colored mountain peaks piled up with corpses. It was a shocking sight. This battle severely injured Frost Springs Hell and it became dormant for many years. The martial Dao Prime Body single-handedly massacred the king experts of Frost Springs Hell into keeping silent out of fear. Countless living beings of hell bowed down to him, establishing his supreme notoriety. Even if all the living beings of hell who participated in the battle were lucky enough to survive, their hearts were still shrouded in a terrifying shadow. In fact, Desolate Marshall's name had already become a taboo in Frost Springs Hell. The living beings of hell did not even dare to mention it. The battle ended. Countless living beings of hell fled Frost Springs City, and the remaining living beings of hell knelt on the ground one after another, bowing down and not daring to resist. Frost Springs Hell had changed owners. Countless living beings of hell raised their heads and looked at the figure in the flames of war. His purple robe was soaked in blood and his cold silver mask made them feel endless fear. Even against the former Hell Lord Frost Springs, many living beings of hell did not feel this way. Tang Kong and Tang Chinga stood outside the Emperor Palace and witnessed the entire battle. Even now, they felt that it was unreal. Desolate Marshal won. He suppressed countless living beings of hell and trampled the entire Frost Springs Hell beneath his feet. Tang Kong let out a long breath with a conflicted expression, his eyes filled with both joy and worry. On the one hand, after the martial Dao Prime Body had taken over Frost Springs Hell and became the new Hell Lord Frost Springs, they would not have to flee everywhere in the future. On the other hand, Frost Springs Hell would fall into a long period of chaos. Frost Springs Hell was way too big. The East Plains, South Forest, West Swamp, North Ridge and even the Central Capital included, there would definitely be some experts and factions who would stand out to fight the martial Dao Prime Body. Of course, given the methods displayed by the martial Dao Prime Body, these experts and factions were nothing to fear. The greatest threat for the martial Dao Prime Body was still the other 8 hells. Before long, the battle today would spread to the other 8 hells. Although the Hell world was once severely injured and fell into the Dharma-ending era without the rule of the Lord of Hell, the 9 hells were independent. The 8 hells might not even care if Frost Springs Hell changed owners. However, the martial Dao Prime Body was an outsider after all. The 8 hells might probably not allow a Hell Lord from the medium Kiliakasm to take reign. Once the 8 hells joined forces, they would be much stronger than the Frost Springs Hell before them and would not submit and retreat easily. Tang Kong brought Tang Chinga back to the Emperor Palace. This time round, the way Tang Chinga looked at the martial Dao Prime Body had changed completely. Prior to this, although the martial Dao Prime Body had once displayed his might in the North Ridge, killing many Nether Kings and suppressing the living beings of hell in the North Ridge, Tang Chinga was not too afraid of him. After this battle, Tang Chinga did not even dare to meet the eyes of the martial Dao Prime Body. "You're here. Just in time. When the Martial Dao Prime Body saw Tang Kong return, he nodded slightly. I'll leave the maintenance of the Frost Springs Emperor Palace and Frost Springs City, including the living beings of hell in the city, to you from now on. Tang Kong was stunned. With his ability, it was not too difficult for him to deal with these things. However, he was only King Northridge after all. It was difficult for him to convince the masses if he wanted to lead the living beings of hell in Frost Springs City. As though he could read Tang Kong's concerns, the Martial Dao Prime Body said casually, from now on, you'll take on the position of Hell Lord Frost Springs. Chapter 2668 Mystery of the Six Paths. 2668 Mystery of the Six Paths. The Martial Dao Prime Body did not care about the position of Hell Lord Frost Springs. To him, the most important thing was to cultivate in seclusion. Secondly, he had to find a way to leave the Hell world and return to the medium Kiliakasm. Even if the Martial Dao Prime Body were to become the Lord of Hell, he would not be reluctant to leave this place, let alone the position of Hell Lord Frost Springs. Of course, he still had many questions about the Hell world. Perhaps Consort Yu in the main hall could give him some answers. Tang Kong was not happy at all when he heard the arrangements of the Martial Dao Prime Body. Instead, he had a bitter expression and hesitated for a moment before agreeing. In his opinion, he was merely a puppet of the Martial Dao Prime Body. The living beings of hell in Frost Springs Hell knew who the true master of Frost Springs Hell was. If the 8 hells attacked Frost Springs Hell, as Hell Lord Frost Springs in name, he would be the first to bear the brunt and would not be able to escape death. Sigh. Tang Kong sighed internally. He could not reject the Martial Dao Prime Body. If not for the Martial Dao Prime Body, he would not have lived to this day. His Tang family would have been exterminated by Ming Feng and the others at his birthday banquet. All right. Tang Kong perked up and tried to find joy in his misery. He forced a smile and thought to himself, to be able to ascend to the throne of Hell Lord Frost Springs before I die, my life has not been in vain. The Martial Dao Prime Body did not know Tang Kong's complicated thoughts. After throwing all these trivial matters to Tang Kong, he turned around and entered the hall. Consort Yu stood inside and their eyes met. Her beautiful eyes were fixated on the person before her without blinking, and she had a conflicted expression with mixed emotions in her heart. At that moment, she recalled many things from the past and the first time she saw the elegant scholar deep underground in the great Qian ruins. She recalled how weak the person before her was in the old capital of Yang country in Tianhuang mainland and even needed her to save him. However, this weak and delicate scholar had grown way too quickly. At the 10,000 race meet, he was already close to catching up with her. Later on, this person established the martial Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings, pacifying the chaos of the primordial races and suppressing the bloodline catastrophe. In the end, he ascended to the top and was conferred the title of Eternal Martial Emperor. At that time, this person had already completely surpassed her. Consort Yu had her own pride. She had once thought of taking a look at Little Fox and him at the same time. However, that day, a peerless and dazzling blood-robed woman suddenly appeared beside him. As such, she gave up on that thought. The blood-robed woman killed the Tianhuang witch race with a casual palm strike. With a wave of her hand, she slaughtered the living beings of the upper world and looked down on all living beings in an insufferably arrogant manner. Even now, Consort Yu could not forget the shock of seeing that scene back then. Even with her pride, she felt inferior in front of the blood-robed woman. Consort Yu's beauty was worthy of any praise in the world. It was enough to cause the downfall of a city and topple all living beings. Even the blood-robed woman seemed to be inferior to her beauty. However, if the two of them stood together, the blood-robed woman would be able to snatch away all the light on her body. Anyone who stood shoulder to shoulder with the blood-robed woman would turn dim. When Consort Yu saw the blood-robed woman holding Suzimo's palm, she retracted some of her distracting thoughts and never looked for Suzimo after that. However, she had not expected the two of them to reunite in Frost Springs Hell today. Furthermore, this person had already grown to this point and suppressed the entire Frost Springs Hell single-handedly. The two of them were silent for a long time. The martial Dao Prime Body was the first to speak. In Tianhuang mainland, I once saw you undergo tribulation transcendence and ascend with my own eyes. Why are you here? So, he was still paying attention to me in Tianhuang mainland. A thought flashed through Consort Yu's mind. She shook her head gently. At that time, I indeed underwent tribulation transcendence and ascended. However, during the process of ascending, I was struck by the turbulence of the starry skies and died on the spot. You died? The martial Tao prime body frowned slightly and asked, You're already dead? Of course. Consort Yu smiled bitterly. If I didn't already die, why would I come to the hell world and transform into the ancient nether race in Frost Springs Hell? The martial Tao prime body was even more confused when he heard that. As though she could tell the confusion in the martial Tao prime body's heart, Consort Yu explained, generally speaking, when all living beings die, their souls will enter the netherworld. In the netherworld, after being baptized by the water of the yellow springs, one will lose the memories of their previous life. Then, under the guidance of the living beings of the netherworld, the souls of all living beings will be sent to the 6 paths. The hell world is one of the 6 paths. When he heard that, the martial Tao prime body's heart skipped a beat. Consort Yu's few sentences revealed too much information. Furthermore, the information was shocking enough. The 6 paths of the 6 paths of reincarnation were the heavenly Tao, human Tao, Azura Tao, beast Tao, hungry ghost Tao and hell Tao. As for the so-called hell Tao, it was actually a vast world that could coexist with the medium Kiliakasm. If the hell Tao was represented by a world, did that mean that the other 5 were the same? Perhaps that was the deeper meaning of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Consort Yu's words confirmed a previous guess of the martial Tao prime body. Hell and the netherworld were 2 completely different places but were inextricably linked. The martial Tao prime body asked, Your soul was sent to the hell world. That's why you were reborn in Frost Springs Hell? Consort Yu nodded. The ancient nether race of the 9 hells are actually the souls of all living beings in the Trichiliacasm. Through the netherworld, they were sent to the hell world of the 6 paths and obtained different powers from the 9 springs of hell, transformed from the spring water. To be precise, this isn't considered a rebirth. That's because these souls no longer have the memories of their previous lives and have completely gotten rid of all the imprints of their previous lives. They are born as a completely new life in the 9 springs of hell, the ancient nether race. The martial Tao prime body discovered the loophole and asked, In that case, why do you still have the memories of your previous life when you transformed in Frost Springs Hell? Consort Yu said, That's because I once unintentionally obtained a magical flower called the parameter flower. There's nothing special about this flower in Tianhuang mainland. When my soul fell into the netherworld, I carried the parameter flower. The protection of that flower helped me preserve the memories of my previous life. Later on, I was transformed in the Frost Springs. Although I changed into this body and possessed the bloodline of the ancient nether race, I still retained the memories of my previous life. The martial Tao prime body nodded to himself. As long as she retained the memories of her previous life, from a certain perspective, Consort Yu was not truly dead. Or rather, this was just her rebirth. Consort Yu took out a bright red flower from her consciousness and said in confusion, I've seen this parameter flower on both sides of the netherworld's Yellow Springs Road. I heard that the parameter flower only grows on both sides of the Yellow Springs Road. As such, I wonder why there was one of these in Tianhuang mainland. Chapter 2669, 2669 9 Springs Hell Sutra. 2669 9 Springs Hell Sutra. Consort Yu's words resolved many questions in the heart of the martial Tao prime body and unveiled a corner of the mysterious veil of the hell world at the same time. The so-called transformation was not them being born out of thin air. Instead, it was a life form evolved from the souls of all living beings that entered the hell world after they died and borrowed the power of the 9 springs of hell. Although the ancient nether race in the hell world could not reproduce, as long as living beings died and entered the netherworld and hell, there would be an endless stream of ancient nether race beings born. The martial Tao prime body pondered for a moment and asked, since the souls of the netherworld can pass through the 6 paths and enter the hell world, can the living beings of the hell world head to the netherworld? No. Consort Yu shook her head. Up till now, I've never heard of a path that can connect to the other worlds from the Hell world. The Netherworld and Hell world are two independent worlds. To be precise, the minor kiliocosms, medium kiliocosms, Netherworld and six paths are independent. However, there's a certain connection between them. The martial Tao prime body nodded to himself. When living beings of minor kiliocosms cultivated to a certain realm, they could ascend to a medium kiliocosm of a higher level. As for the living beings of the minor and medium kiliocosms, after they died, their souls could enter the Netherworld. In the Netherworld, souls could enter the Hell world or the other five paths through the six paths of reincarnation. The martial Tao prime body asked, if living beings in the minor and medium kiliocosms die and their souls enter the Netherworld, they will enter the six paths of reincarnation. Can we follow this lead and find the whereabouts of these souls? The reason why the martial Tao prime body asked that was because he thought of his eldest brother, Su Hong, and Ji Yaoshue. That's impossible. Consort Yu shook her head. Think about it. There are billions of minor kiliocosms and 3,000 medium kiliocosms. There are countless living beings and countless souls returning to the Netherworld at every moment. How can we find them? Furthermore, after these souls were baptized by the Yellow Springs and lost their memories, they were completely cut off from their previous lives. If they experienced a few more reincarnations, it would be even more impossible to investigate. The martial Tao prime body was silent. He knew in his heart that Consort Yu was right. At every moment, countless souls would enter the Netherworld. Su Hong had already died for many years. His soul must have long entered the six paths after arriving at the Netherworld and achieved reincarnation with his current whereabouts unknown. As for Ji Yaoshue, up till now, the martial Tao prime body did not know what had happened to her. Ji Yaoshue had once passed away in his arms. However, in the end, Ji Yaoshue's corpse vanished into thin air in the coffin. The martial Tao prime body had once thought that he might be able to find some clues in the Netherworld. From the looks of it, even if he could enter the Netherworld, he would probably not be able to find anything. How did you come to the Hell world? Consort Yu had a puzzled expression and asked, from the looks of it, you don't look like you were born from the 9 springs of hell. I was pushed down an abyss in a secret ground and arrived here. The martial Tao prime body described the entire process briefly. At the mention of that, he was still puzzled. Who was the old monk guarding the tomb? What did he have to do with the Hell world? What was the old monk's motive for pushing him down? Consort Yu was confused about that as well. It was clear that she had never heard of the old monk guarding the tomb or Avicii. Your cultivation isn't slow. The spirit consciousness of the martial Tao prime body swept past Consort Yu and he changed the topic. Consort Yu's cultivation was equivalent to a heaven immortal of the heavenly world and was similar to the other old friends of Tianhuang mainland. Consort Yu smiled. I transformed in the Hell Frost Springs and gained the bloodline of the ancient Nether race as well as the cultivation technique of it. In the dark and sinister Hell world, Consort Yu was much happier now that she was with an old friend from Tianhuang mainland. Unknowingly, a smile appeared on her face. In addition, the ancient Nether race can cultivate a taboo mystic classic, the 9 Springs Hell Sutra. Consort Yu added. Taboo mystic classic? The expression of the martial Tao prime body changed. Only cultivation techniques cultivated, created, perfected and passed down by great emperors could be called taboo mystic classic. How could a taboo mystic classic be cultivated casually by ancient Nether race beings? When Consort Yu saw the strange expression on the martial Tao prime body's face, she said, to be precise, it's only one section of the 9 Springs Hell Sutra, the Frost Springs section. Although it's only a single section and is not at the level of a taboo mystic classic, it can still be considered the best cultivation technique. The martial Tao prime body asked, in that case, the 9 Springs Hell Sutra should have 9 sections corresponding to the 9 Springs of Hell? Consort Yu nodded. Every section is beside their respective hell's spring water. The ancient Nether race of Frost Springs, Hell can only cultivate the Frost Springs section. If they cultivate the other sections at the same time, there will be a huge problem. At best, their cultivation will dissipate. At worst, they might even die. I heard that before the Dharma-ending era, apart from the Lord of Hell, there were also some living beings of Hell who could cultivate many sections. However, ever since the Lord of Hell died, no one has been able to cultivate multiple sections. The martial Tao Prime Body asked, "Why?" Consort Yu replied, "It said that apart from the 9 sections, there's also the most important general section that combines and condenses the 9 sections. Only by mastering this general section can one cultivate the complete taboo mystic classic. This general section was engraved on an ancient mirror that the Lord of Hell carried with him. Ever since he died, the ancient mirror was lost as well. As time passed, this general section was gradually lost." When he heard that, the martial Tao Prime Body's heart skipped a beat. He took out the Netherworld treasure mirror and handed it to Consort Yu. "This is..." Consort Yu probed. The martial Tao Prime Body said, "An ancient mirror I picked up in Avicii. It's rather evil and might be the ancient mirror of the Lord of Hell back then. However, the general section you mentioned is not on this ancient mirror." The martial Tao Prime Body turned the ancient mirror to the back. There are only 3 words on the back of the ancient mirror: Netherworld treasure mirror. Nothing else apart from that. Just as the martial Tao Prime Body flipped the Netherworld treasure mirror around, his palm brushed past the edge of the ancient mirror and he felt a pain in his palm. It was bleeding. The gaze of the martial Tao Prime Body froze. How strong was his physique? When the true martial Tao body was cultivated to perfection, even ordinary grotto heaven spirit treasures could not injure him at all. Right now, the edge of the ancient mirror had inadvertently injured his palm. That was not all. Just as the martial Tao Prime Body was about to place the ancient mirror aside to check on the wound, a powerful devouring power burst forth from the edge of the ancient mirror. The Netherworld treasure mirror seemed to have transformed into a bloodthirsty weapon as it gulped down the bloodline of the martial Tao Prime Body along the wound like it was thirsty. The eyes of the martial Tao Prime Body flashed coldly and he flung it, wanting to throw the Netherworld treasure mirror down. However, it was as though the Netherworld treasure mirror had already grown in his wound. The edge of the ancient mirror was embedded into the wound and even went deeper. The martial Tao Prime Body could clearly sense that his bloodline was being plundered crazily by the Netherworld treasure mirror at an astonishing speed. If he could not stop this process, he would probably be sucked into a dried corpse in a dozen breaths. Chapter 2672 Mystic Classics. 2672 Mystic Classics. The martial Tao Prime Body summoned the Hell Suppression Tripod and smashed it towards the Netherworld treasure mirror. Clang! There was a loud bang. The Hell Suppression Tripod collided with the Netherworld treasure mirror and a sanguine light appeared on the mirror of the Netherworld treasure mirror, emitting an extremely evil and filthy power. Instantly, the Hell Suppression Tripod bounced off and enveloped the martial Tao Prime Body. The martial Tao Prime Body's heart skipped a beat. The evil and filthy power was extremely powerful and even the perfected true martial Tao body could not withstand it. The Dharmic Tao runes contained in his bones and body showed signs of dissipating. To think that the martial Tao Prime Body would be dragged into danger by the evil ancient mirror before he could encounter any powerful opponents in Frost Springs Hell. The martial Tao Prime Body did not have time to think. He summoned his soul lantern and released the martial spirit fire, igniting it. The soul lantern burned and was filled with a golden halo, dispelling the evil and filthy power in the surroundings. The martial Tao Prime Body wielded the soul lantern and placed it beneath the Netherworld treasure mirror, burning it with the flames of the soul lantern. Ah! A tragic cry sounded from the Netherworld treasure mirror. Immediately after, the Netherworld treasure mirror shuddered and fell from the wound on the palm of the martial Tao Prime Body, becoming silent once more. The martial Tao Prime Body heaved a sigh of relief. There was a high chance that the reaction of the Netherworld treasure mirror was caused by the weapon spirit. The awakening of this weapon spirit should have been triggered by the endless grotto heaven powers absorbed during the battle in the North Ridge. After the weapon spirit awakened, it made use of the Netherworld treasure mirror to devour essence blood crazily. Earlier on, the weapon spirit even harbored designs on the martial Tao Prime Body. The soul lantern possessed an extremely terrifying lethality towards spirit bodies and souls. Therefore, Although the martial Tao Prime body could not injure the Netherworld treasure mirror after summoning the soul lantern, it caused immense damage to the weapon spirit. The martial Tao Prime body roasted the Netherworld treasure mirror with the soul lantern for a while more. The Netherworld treasure mirror was silent and did not react anymore. It was as though the weapon spirit had already been destroyed by the soul lantern. The martial Tao Prime body extinguished the soul lantern and put it away before picking up the Netherworld treasure mirror again. This time round, a strange feeling suddenly appeared in his heart. It was as though he had already established a faint connection with the Netherworld treasure mirror. The martial Tao Prime body speculated that the appearance of this feeling might be related to the Netherworld treasure mirror devouring his bloodline earlier on. He tried to activate it a few more times, but there was no reaction from the Netherworld treasure mirror. Up till now, he still did not know what use the ancient mirror had and how to activate it. However, this time round, when his spirit consciousness surged into the Netherworld treasure mirror, he seemed to have sensed something. With a thought, dense strange runes appeared slowly on the mirror of the Netherworld treasure mirror. There are words. Consort, you looked at the strange runes on the Netherworld treasure mirror and exclaimed softly, "It's the Nether language." The martial Tao Prime body took a look. The strange runes on the Netherworld treasure mirror clearly came from the same source as the words in the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra that the Green Lotus True Body had shown him. "This is the Nether language?" the martial Tao Prime body asked. Consort, you nodded and paused for a moment before shaking her head. "I don't know the details either. However, the living beings of hell call them Nether language. The Nine Springs Hell Sutra is written in such words." The martial Tao Prime body asked again, "Can you understand the Nether language?" "Yes." Consort, you nodded. She had transformed in the Hell Frost Springs and stayed in Frost Springs Hell for thousands of years, so she was already proficient in such strange runes. Consort, you looked at the strange runes on the Netherworld treasure mirror and said excitedly, "This is the general section of the Nine Springs Hell Sutra. Put it away quickly and don't show it to anyone." The martial Tao Prime body said casually, "It's fine. Take a look as you please." Consort Yu's heart skipped a beat as she glanced at the martial Tao Prime body quickly before retracting her gaze. The general section could sort out the 9 sections of the Hell Sutra and contained the core Dharmic Tao of that secret manual. It's no small deal. Back then, only the Lord of Hell was in control of the general section. If the other Hell Lords made great contributions, they could obtain a reward from the Lord of Hell and he would impart a few sentences from the general section to them. Even so, it was enough for those Hell Lords to benefit endlessly. But now, the person before her did not hide anything and allowed her to read the secret skill sutra as she pleased. Consort Yu's heart could not help but stir. Right then, the martial Tao Prime body continued, "After you're done reading, you can explain to me the meaning of the Nether language." So that's his intention. Consort Yu thought to herself with a look of disappointment. She abandoned those distracting thoughts and gathered her attention before long to read the general section of the Netherworld treasure mirror. As she read it herself, she explained the Nether language on the Netherworld treasure mirror to the martial Tao Prime body word by word. It took Consort Yu an entire night to finish annotating the general section. This night was a huge drain on her spirit as well. The Dharmic Tao contained in the general section was indeed incomparably profound. If she wanted to comprehend the essence of it, she would need some time to figure it out. Of course, this general section allowed her future cultivation path to suddenly become incomparably broad and bright. If she had the chance in the future to obtain the other 8 sections of the Hell Sutra, it would be equivalent to her obtaining the complete 9 Springs Hell Sutra. The cultivation realm of the martial Tao Prime body was even higher. He had read many high-grade cultivation techniques and even a few taboo mystic classics. Given his judgment and talent, he naturally benefited even more overnight. Initially, he had doubts about whether the 9 Springs Hell Sutra was a taboo mystic classic. However, after reading the general section, he was almost certain that the 9 Springs Hell Sutra was a taboo mystic classic. The Dharmic Tao contained in the sutra was exquisite and only taboo mystic classics could reach that level. In that case, the Lord of Hell of the past should have cultivated to the level of a great emperor. Of course, the martial Tao Prime body did not only obtain the general sutra of a taboo mystic classic overnight. Through Consort Yu's explanation, he understood a lot more about the Nether language. There were only 600-odd words in the 2 sections of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. Right now, the Martial Tao Prime Body could already read the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra on his own. The Martial Tao Prime Body merely browsed through it briefly and felt that the 600-odd words in the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra were even more profound. Every single word and sentence seemed to contain some maxim of the great Tao. If one pondered for a moment, they would be able to comprehend other Dharmic Taos with endless profundities. The Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra seemed to be of a higher level than the 9 Springs Hell Sutra. At the very least, it was a taboo mystic classic as well, right? As though she had recalled something, Consort Yu said with a grim expression, "If word gets out about today's battle, the experts of the other 8 hells won't sit idly by." Yes. The thoughts of the Martial Tao Prime Body were focused on the 2 cultivation technique sutras as he replied distractedly. "In fact, I suspect that the 8 hells will join forces to deal with you." Afraid that the Martial Tao Prime Body did not know the pros and cons, Consort Yu continued, "Didn't you see Tang Kong's bitter expression when you made him Hell Lord Frost Springs? He must have realized the consequences of this matter as well. You can't be careless." Chapter 2671, 2671 Hell Frost Springs. 2671 Hell Frost Springs. The Martial Tao Prime Body pondered in silence. If the 8 hells joined forces, it would indeed be quite troublesome. Previously, when he killed Hell Lord Frost Springs, he caught the latter off guard and made use of the Hell Suppression Tripod. If the combat strength of the 8 Hell Lords was comparable to Hell Lord Frost Springs, once they joined forces, it would be difficult for him to defend even if he summoned the Hell Suppression Tripod. The Netherworld Treasure Mirror was too evil and he did not know how to activate it. The Soul Lantern was extremely harmful to the essence spirit and soul. However, it was difficult for the Soul Lantern to cause direct damage to the various Hell Lords who possessed actual bodies and bloodlines. Furthermore, there was an invisible danger hidden in his Essence Martial Grotto Heaven. Every time he released the Essence Martial Grotto Heaven, his spirit perception would warn him. If this danger could not be resolved, he had to be careful in the future battles and could not casually summon the Essence Martial Grotto Heaven. Fortunately, there were no Emperor Realm experts in the Hell world under the envelopment of the Dharma ending era. If he could take the most critical step in his martial Tao, he would not be afraid even if the 8 Hell Lords joined forces. The Martial Tao Prime Body asked, "Is there a place here where I can enter seclusion?" Right now, the most important thing for him was to make the best use of his time and cultivate in seclusion. He had to absorb and digest the 2 sutras he had just obtained and perfect the next step of the martial Tao. After all, the 8 hells had been independent for many years. It was not easy for all that power to join forces within a short period of time. This was an opportunity for the Martial Tao Prime Body. Consort Yu said, "Beside the Hell Frost Springs, there are a few secret chambers where the Hell Lord used to cultivate. There are array formations and restrictions engraved outside that prevent others from approaching. The Nether Chi beside the Frost Springs is also the richest and you can better absorb the power of the Hell Frost Springs." All right. The Martial Tao Prime Body nodded. It was a good opportunity for him to experience the legendary 9 springs of hell that possessed strange powers. Consort Yu sped into the depths of the hall with the Martial Tao Prime Body. The closer they were to the back of the hall, the colder the temperature became. The surrounding hall was clearly covered in a layer of frost. "By the way, there's one more thing," Consort Yu reminded. "The Frost Springs exudes a bone-chilling coldness and has an obvious suppression on living beings of other bloodlines. It's the most harmful to aquatic living beings. As an ancient nether race being, Consort Yu was born from the Frost Springs and was resistant to the Hell Frost Springs. However, other living beings of hell could not approach at all." The Martial Tao Prime Body remained silent. As the 2 of them went deeper and the temperature decreased, Consort Yu was fine. However, she was surprised to discover that the Martial Tao Prime Body could move freely as well, as though he was not affected at all. On the contrary, when she stood beside the Martial Tao Prime Body, she could still sense that there was a gigantic walking furnace beside her that was warm and extremely comfortable. Even ancient nether race beings from the other hells had to release grotto heavens to defend against the chill. The two of them passed through a long passageway, and before long, their vision cleared up. What entered their vision was a gigantic lake that was filled with mist and transformed into various living beings in midair. At the center of the lake, a water stream the size of a well could be seen surging continuously. Broop, broop. The spring water flowed towards the surroundings, creating ripples that formed the gigantic Frost Springs Lake. If he was not wrong, the surging water in the middle of the lake should be the eye of the Hell Frost Springs. The martial Tao prime body swept his gaze and realized that he could vaguely see traces of the mud beneath his feet being submerged by the Frost Springs previously. Consort Yu explained, I heard that before the Dharma-ending era of Hell, the water flowing in the Frost Springs was much larger than what we saw before. The lake formed was also several times larger than the one before us and could drown more than half of this main hall. Later on, the world shattered, the great Tao was damaged and the laws were incomplete. As a result, the Frost Springs gradually dried up and the lake shrank, resulting in its current state. The martial Tao prime body looked at the Hell Frost Springs before him in deep thought. The nether chi around the Hell Frost Springs was indeed the densest. In other words, it was not an exaggeration to call it the center of Frost Springs Hell. Its use and status might be even more important than the Builder Tree to the heavenly world. In the heavenly world, the Builder Tree could gather heaven and earth essence chi and form a regional continent suitable for all kinds of living beings to cultivate. As for the Hell Frost Springs before him, it could be said to be the source of the nether chi in Frost Springs Hell. The spring water was different from the Builder Tree. The Builder Tree grew in the central area of the heavenly world and was motionless. As for the spring water, it flowed continuously and traced its source. There had to be a spring on the other side of the Frost Springs. The eye of the Hell Frost Springs was right in front of the martial Tao prime body. In that case, where was the source of the spring? The martial Tao prime body was curious as to what kind of spring source could evolve into such dense nether chi. The powerful power even nourished the spring water of the entire Frost Springs Hell. The martial Tao prime body stepped forward and arrived at the side of the Frost Springs Lake. The temperature by the lake was even lower. Even with the terrifying blood chi of the martial Tao prime body, he could feel a needle-like chilliness on his body. His eyebrows and long hair were covered in a layer of frost. He looked towards the Frost Springs Lake and narrowed his eyes slightly. Through the layers of coldness, one could vaguely see balls of light of various shapes floating in the lake, nurturing different living beings. There were humans, demons, giants, and dragons. At a glance, there were countless living beings of the 10,000 races. Those balls of light were like fetal membranes. The living beings in the fetal membranes were souls that had entered the Hell Tao. The souls soaked in the water of the Frost Springs and absorbed the power of the Hell Frost Springs continuously, using that power to gradually derive flesh and blood to obtain new life. The souls that had just entered the Frost Springs Lake sank to the bottom of the lake. As time passed, these souls absorbed enough power and regained their bodies. When they were about to wake up, they would float up. That scene looked a little strange and hair-raising. There were also some guards guarding the Frost Springs Lake. The guards already knew the outcome of the battle outside and looked at the martial Tao prime body with fear. Consort Yu explained, these are the escort guards of the ancient nether race who guard this place. For the transformed ancient nether race, guards will guide them and impart the Tao to awaken their bloodlines before letting them head over to cultivate the Frost Springs section. Following Consort Yu's gaze, the martial Tao prime body saw a tall stele standing beside the Frost Springs Lake. There were dense words engraved on it, all of them strange runes. The martial Tao prime body approached and read the Frost Springs section from top to bottom. He first read the general section of the 9 Springs Hell Sutra before reading the Frost Springs section. It was much smoother and some obscure points became easy to understand. The martial Tao prime body memorized the Frost Springs section again before arriving at a secret cultivation chamber at the side under Consort Yu's guidance. Although it was called a secret chamber, it was actually rather spacious and was equivalent to a rather large cave abode. There were many miscellaneous items inside. The martial Tao Prime body gave Consort Yu a few more instructions before entering seclusion in the secret chamber to cultivate. This seclusion was extremely important. It would be a leap of a major realm that determined the upper limit of the martial Tao in the future. Chapter 2672 Opportunity. 2672 Opportunity. It had been 10 days since the 9 firmament meet. During this period of time, the news of desolate marshal of the fiend domain causing a ruckus at the 9 firmament meet spread through the heavenly world and caused a huge commotion. Almost everyone in the heavenly world knew that a new fiend had been born in the fiend domain. At the 9 firmament meet, he suppressed the immortal kings of the 2 domains and even alarmed the emperor experts of the 2 domains. This matter had even spread to the heavenly world, and the living beings and experts of the other worlds had heard of it. The news of the 9 firmament meet spread continuously in the heavenly world and attracted countless discussions. No one knew that the instigator of this matter, desolate marshal of the fiend domain, had already fallen into the hell world and was completely isolated from the medium Kiliakasm. As for the Green Lotus true body, he cultivated in seclusion in the battle kingdom of the Green Firmament Immortal domain in search of an opportunity to break through. At the 9 firmament meet, Suzimo made use of the Builder Tree, and the Green Lotus true body had already absorbed enough energy essence to support him in condensing his Tao fruit and advancing to the perfected one realm. However, it was far more difficult for him to become a perfected immortal than other cultivators and living beings. That was because the Green Lotus true body had cultivated many completely different Dharmic Taos. Furthermore, the power of every Dharmic Tao was extremely strong. Almost all of them were comprehended after cultivating taboo mystic classics and could not be assimilated and devoured by other Dharmic Taos. As the human monarch and immortal Queen Ling Long had said, if not for the fact that he was the creation Green Lotus, his body and essence spirit would not have been able to contain so many Dharmic Taos and would have exploded long ago. Due to the creation Green Lotus, be it the immortal, Buddhist, fiend or demon Taos, they were all his creations and opportunities. Before reaching the perfected one realm, he did not encounter much trouble. However, if he wanted to advance to the perfected one realm, he had to condense a Tao fruit. The Tao fruit was condensed from the essence and profoundness of one's Dharmic Tao and could be said to be the culmination of his skills. However, the 4 different Dharmic Taos of the immortal, Buddhist, fiend and demon Taos would face immense repulsion and conflict once he attempted to condense a Tao fruit. It was as difficult as ascending to the heaven. Suzimo needed an opportunity. If it was before this, it would be difficult for him to obtain this opportunity in a short period of time. He might not be able to take that step even in 10 years or 100,000 years, let alone 10 days. However, immortal Queen Ling Long's guidance and translation of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra was too helpful to him. Given his current cultivation, he could not comprehend his own Dharmic Tao from the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. Even so, he had obtained many insights from the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra for the past 10 days. All things in the world possessed the Dharmic Tao of yin and yang. There were equivalent embodiments of everything. Heaven and earth, the sun and moon, day and night, cold and heat, motion and stillness, opening and closing, life and death. Yin and yang was the Tao of heaven and earth and the outline of all living beings. It was the beginning of life and death where the gods took residence. If he wanted to condense the Dharmic Taos of the immortal, Buddhist, fiend and demon Taos into a Tao fruit, he had to supplement it with the Tao of yin and yang and fuse the 2 opposing powers into a single unity. In the cave abode, Suzimo suddenly opened his eyes. His left eye was pitch black and his right was pure white. The 2 nether illumination stones seemed to have transformed into yin and yang as they flashed through his eyes. Suzimo floated down from his seat. At the entrance of the cave abode, Lin Luo woke up from her cultivation when she heard the commotion inside and stood up. For the past few days, she had been protecting Suzimo here. If Suzimo had any instructions, she could help at any time. How's everything? Lin Luo looked at Suzimo with a hint of anticipation. The 2 of them had the same cultivation realm. However, she had yet to find an opportunity to break through. Su Zimo did not say anything and merely nodded. Lin Luo was smart and instantly understood what Su Zimo meant. Her eyes lit up. "I'll inform Mother right away." She pushed open the cave abode and was about to send a message when Lin Zhon's figure suddenly appeared not far away. "Luoa, what's wrong?" For the past few days, Lin Luo was not the only one. Lin Zhon did not go far either. He presided over the vicinity while Su Zimo cultivated. Su Zimo bowed to Lin Zhon. Lin Zhon's face was clearly much rosier than 10 days ago. The Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra was indeed a strange book. In just 10 days, it had a considerable effect on Lin Zhon's injuries. Of course, after all, the time was too short. Lin Zhon's injuries had yet to recover and he was not at his past peak. Before Lin Luo could speak, Lin Zhon swept his gaze across Su Zimo and sensed the immense energy that was about to spew out from his body. This was a sign that he was about to break through. Good, good, good. Lin Zhon nodded repeatedly. Ling Long has been setting up an immortal formation for the past few days to block the detection of auras. Follow me. Lin Zhon tore through the void with Su Zimo and Lin Luo and descended into a valley. This is the territory of the Battle Kingdom and is uninhabited within a radius of 500 kilometers. Lin Zhon explained, with the help of the Immortal Formation and Ling Long casting Dharmic arts to help you conceal the heavenly secrets, you will be able to undergo tribulation transcendence here without attracting the attention of anyone. It'll help you hide from the world. Thank you, seniors. Su Zimo bowed in thanks. This was of utmost importance to him. The tussle between him and the mastermind had long begun. Prior to this, he was passive in every aspect and was in the open. In fact, he did not even know who was manipulating his fate. But now, with the help of the human monarch and immortal Queen Ling Long, he could take the initiative in this tussle. Right then, immortal Queen Ling Long sensed the commotion and approached as well. Lin Lei followed behind her. Both of them looked pale and their auras were weak. In order to set up this immortal formation for 10 days, immortal Queen Ling Long and Lin Lei clearly expended a lot of energy. Su Zimo was grateful and thanked her once more. He looked at Lin Lei and cupped his fists as well. "Brother Lin, thank you." Lin Lei nodded and said indifferently, "There's no need to thank me. If not for the Soraka fruit and 9 revolutions young reversion pill you gave my younger sister back then, I wouldn't have bothered to help you." Su Zimo smiled and did not say anything. Immortal Queen Ling Long frowned slightly and shook her head helplessly, thinking to herself, "Child, if you knew that you and Luoa were saved by him in Langfeng City of the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain back then, I wonder how ashamed you would be now." This matter involved Su Zimo's secret and immortal Queen Ling Long could not explain it. She could only roll her eyes at Lin Lei. Immortal Queen Ling Long turned to look at Su Zimo and said gently, "Zimo, this immortal formation has already been set up. Just focus on tribulation transcendence here and don't have any reservations. What you have to do is deal with the perfected one heavenly tribulation properly and not be careless." Lin Zhon also reminded, the perfected one heavenly tribulation is no small matter, especially from the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation onwards. It will produce a qualitative increase and its power will increase exponentially. You have to be careful. Lin Zhon glared at Lin Lei again. Back then, when Leia underwent the perfected one heavenly tribulation, he was almost struck to death by the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation. At the mention of this, Lin Lei's face flushed red. Lin Lei could not stand being scolded by his father in front of others and did not dare to retort. He could only mutter softly, "Let's talk about it," if he even attracts the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Generally speaking, the stronger one's talent and potential were, the more terrifying the perfected one heavenly tribulation would be. Thunder Monarch Feng Kantian and Human Monarch Lin Zhon had once attracted the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Lin Lei and immortal Queen Ling Long both received the baptism of the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation in the past. Those that could attract the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation were already rare paragons. Chapter 2673, 2673 Perfected one heavenly tribulation. 2673 Perfected one heavenly tribulation. The two of you can go back. Immortal Queen Ling Long glanced at Lin Lei and Lin Luo and suddenly said, Su Zimo's tribulation transcendence this time round was no small matter. During the process of resisting the heavenly tribulation, the bloodline of the creation Green Lotus would definitely be exposed. Of course, Immortal Queen Ling Long believed in her 2 children. However, this matter concerned Su Zimo's life and safety. The fewer people who knew, the better. Lin Lei did not say anything. He was not interested in Su Zimo's tribulation transcendence to begin with. A look of disappointment flashed through Lin Luo's eyes. She had also cultivated to become a grade 9 heaven immortal, but she did not sense the opportunity to break through. To her, Su Zimo's perfected 1 heavenly tribulation was not only a rare experience, it might also allow her to gain some insights and find an opportunity to break through. Su Zimo's expression changed. Sensing the change in Lin Luo's emotions, he could not help but smile. Seniors, let them stay here and watch. Well. Immortal Queen Ling Long was a little hesitant. Su Zimo shook his head gently, indicating that it was fine. He could tell what Immortal Queen Ling Long was worried about. However, he had a feeling that after today's tribulation transcendence, his Green Lotus bloodline might not be able to remain hidden. Even if the mastermind did not attack, he would choose to lay his cards on the table. Furthermore, for the past few days, Lin Luo had been guarding him in the cave abode while Lin Lei set up an array formation here. Letting them watch from the side could be considered repayment for the 2 of them. Immortal Queen Ling Long was overjoyed to obtain Su Zimo's agreement. The tribulation transcendence of the creation Green Lotus was rare in history and was bound to be a great wonder since the ancient times. No one knew what would happen. However, what was certain was that if Lin Lei and Lin Luo could watch from the side, it would definitely be an opportunity that could only be chanced upon by luck. Aren't you going to thank him? Immortal Queen Ling Long reminded from the side. Lin Luo cupped his fists at Su Zimo happily. Brother Su, thank you. What's there to thank him for? Lin Lei was puzzled and pouted. What's there to see? It's not like I haven't passed the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation before. Me. Lin Zhon swept his gaze and said coldly, back in the Fiend domain, the Thunder Monarch was lucky enough to witness Desolate Marshal undergo tribulation transcendence and was able to enter the Grotto Heaven to be bestowed the title of King. What do you mean what's there to see? Can you compare to the Thunder Monarch? Lin Lei was the most afraid of his father. After being reprimanded by Lin Zhon, he did not dare to retort and remained silent. However, he did not think much of it and lamented internally, I can't compare to Senior Thunder Monarch, but Su Zimo isn't Desolate Marshal either. At that moment, Su Zimo had already arrived at the center of the valley. Human Monarch Lin Zhon, Immortal Queen Ling Long, Lin Lei and Lin Luo retreated one after another and arrived at the peak of a mountain at the edge of the valley, watching from afar. Bang! Boom! The moment Su Zimo stood still, a deep and rumbling thunder sounded from the skies, as though countless gods were driving chariots that were approaching slowly from the firmaments. A moment ago, the sky was clear and cloudless. The next moment, countless dark clouds floated over and condensed continuously, spinning slowly, forming a gigantic black cloud vortex above the valley. As time passed by, the color of the cloud vortex darkened and changed violently, as though ink could drip from it. Red lightning bolts were already faintly visible in the black clouds. Massive and dense black clouds covered the skies and the entire valley seemed to be enveloped in a gloomy black. Space seemed to have frozen and the atmosphere was oppressive. An immense might lingered in the world and everything was silent. Lin Lei frowned slightly. Although it was only the first level of the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation, he could clearly sense that the first level was much stronger and more terrifying than the one he experienced back then. It seems a little stronger than the one Big Brother faced back then. Lin Luo whispered as well. Crack. The moment she said that, the first heavenly tribulation descended. A scarlet bolt of lightning descended from the skies and tore through the night, landing on Su Zimo's body in a blinding manner. Boom. Su Zimo stood on the spot motionlessly, letting the scarlet lightning strike his head as his body was surrounded by electric arcs. He bathed in the lightning and used the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation to temper his Green Lotus true body crazily. During this process, The Green Lotus true body grew rapidly as well and advanced towards grade 12. To Suzimo, transcending the perfected one heavenly tribulation was not only about condensing the Tao fruit. His Green Lotus true body would also be reborn in this heavenly tribulation and grow to its peak, completely mature. To use the heavenly tribulation to cleanse and temper one's body, one would only have the confidence if their physique and bloodline were strong enough. In Suzimo's eyes, the perfected one heavenly tribulation was not a killing calamity but a huge opportunity. The Green Lotus true body could only transform completely after bathing in lightning and enduring the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. Boom, boom, boom. There were a total of 9 heavenly tribulations in the first level. Each one was stronger than the other and was filled with a ferocious might. The first heavenly tribulation was only as thick as a baby's arm. By the 9th bolt, it had already transformed into a scarlet sea of lightning that surged towards Suzimo. Suzimo stood unmoved in the sea. Not only did his aura not weaken at all, it was rising continuously. When the lightning sea faded and the first level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation ended, Lin Lei and Lin Luo could clearly see that Suzimo was unharmed. He did not move a single finger right from the beginning. How powerful! Lin Luo heaved a sigh of relief and praised. It's all right. Lin Lei nodded as well. Sister, do you still remember that back when I transcended the perfected one heavenly tribulation, I relied on my physique and bloodline to survive the first 3 levels of the heavenly tribulation? Lin Lei did not say it explicitly, but his meaning was clear. He wanted to prove that he was stronger than Suzimo. Of course, Lin Luo understood. She smiled and did not say anything. As the two of them spoke, the second level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation had already descended. Yellow lightning fell continuously with a tremendous might that shook the world. The first, second, and 9th. The 9th heavenly tribulation of the second level had already transformed into a golden sea of lightning that shone with a blinding golden light that pierced through the void, as though it wanted to destroy the entire valley. Suzimo was still motionless, as though his feet had already taken root deep underground. No matter how the sea of lightning struck and how great the tsunami was, it could not destroy him. After the second level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation ended, as though it sensed that it could not pose any threat to Suzimo, the third level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation descended quickly without giving Suzimo any chance to catch his breath. Green lightning struck one after another. The bloodline in the Green Lotus true body circulated continuously and absorbed the surrounding lightning crazily, like a whale swallowing a cow. Every single bone in Suzimo's body began to flash with electric arcs. Enveloped by the heavenly tribulation and washed by the lightning, he closed his eyes and multitasked. He even began to cultivate the Void Thunder Manual and used the power of the heavenly tribulation to temper his body and bones once more, changing his blood through marrow cleansing. Cultivating a cultivation technique during the tribulation transcendence could be said to be unprecedented. In the blink of an eye, the third level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation dissipated. Suzimo stood on the spot the entire time without moving or even opening his eyes. Lin Lei gradually frowned. Back then, although he relied on his physique and bloodline to survive the first 3 levels and a total of 27 heavenly tribulations, he was also in a sorry state and was covered in injuries. He was not as calm as how Suzimo was now. Those who did not know better would think that this person had fallen asleep during the tribulation transcendence. Lin Luo glanced at Lin Lei with a faint smile. By now, the difference between the two of them was obvious. Chapter 2674, 2674 Opening his eyes to break the lightning tribulation. 2674 Opening his eyes to break the lightning tribulation. The fourth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation accumulated. Blue lightning intertwined and condensed into a gigantic beam of light that descended from the skies and smashed onto Suzimo. Against the fourth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation, Suzimo still did not choose to use any divine powers, secret skills, or divine weapons. He closed his eyes the entire time and bathed in lightning, tempering his body with the heavenly tribulation. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder rumbled deafeningly. Under the continuous bombardment, in the blink of an eye, The ninth heavenly tribulation of the fourth level had already condensed. In the sky above the valley, an azure sea had already formed and surged, as though it wanted to destroy everything in the world. It washed over the figure in the middle of the valley continuously, wanting to destroy it. However, the figure stood at the bottom of the deep sea motionlessly. The aura in his body was still rising continuously and getting stronger. This seemed to be a provocation to the heavenly tribulation. Lin Lei pursed his lips tightly and remained silent. He knew very well the power of the fourth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation. Back then, he survived the fourth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation entirely because of the divine weapon his father forged for him. Bang! Boom! In the blink of an eye, the fifth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation descended. Purple lightning surged over and the lightning was world-shaking. Purple light filled the world and it was bedazzling. Among the four people watching from afar, Lin Luo's cultivation realm was the lowest. She felt her vision burn and there was only endless purple light left. She could not even see Su Zimo's figure. Even though she was standing at the edge of the valley, she could still sense the terror of the purple lightning tide in the valley. Lin Luo was secretly shocked. Given her condition, even if she broke through now, it would be difficult for her to survive the fifth level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation. The experience of watching from the sidelines made Lin Luo realize her shortcomings. Instead, she calmed down and was no longer in a hurry to find an opportunity to break through. She was prepared to continue cultivating and sharpen her dharmic Tao. Finally, the purple lightning tide retreated. Lin Luo focused her gaze. Su Zimo was still standing in the distance without moving. Even the vegetation around him was destroyed by the purple lightning tide and the sand and soil were charred. However, he was still dressed in green robes and was spotless. He took on the first 5 levels of the perfected one heavenly tribulations with just his physique and bloodline. Immortal Queen Ling Long looked at Lin Zhon and said softly, "Back then, you seem to have done the same." Lin Zhon shook his head gently. "Back then, in order to temper my body, I chose to undergo tribulation transcendence with my own body. However, I could only last until the 5th level at most. My skin and flesh were lacerated by the heavenly tribulation and I was mangled. It was far from as easy as him. In my opinion, with his physique and bloodline, it won't be a problem for him to take on the 6th level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation head-on." When he heard that, Lin Lei's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, he said, "Previously, there were rumors that Su Zimo was a member of the dragon race and possessed the bloodline of the dragon race. Could that be true?" According to what he knew, among the living beings of the 10,000 races, only a few races such as the God race and the dragon race could survive the 5th level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation with their bodies. Furthermore, they had to be peerless monster incarnates of their races. Rumors can't be trusted. Immortal Queen Ling Long said indifferently. As they spoke, the 6th level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation had already descended. The grey lightning was mixed with a deathly aura and life was destroyed wherever it passed. Grey lightning bolts descended one after another, as though they were not heavenly tribulations but scythes from the netherworld that harvested life. The grey lightning struck Su Zimo's body with a series of loud bangs. Right in front of the 4 of them, Su Zimo finally moved. However, he merely swayed slightly before returning to normal. Su Zimo still did not open his eyes. Ever since the tribulation transcendence, he had stood there and allowed the heavenly tribulation to attack him one after another. He stood tall like a god who controlled lightning. Even though the 6th level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation was about to end, Su Zimo was not injured at all. Not to mention that they had never seen or heard of such a tribulation transcendence method. Even Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long did not dare to imagine it with their knowledge. As expected of the creation Green Lotus. The 2 of them looked at each other and lamented. Suddenly, Lin Luo said, "Brother Su, will he attract the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation?" The 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Upon hearing those words, Lin Lei was shocked and said immediately, "How is that possible? The 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation might not even appear in 1,000,000 years in the heavenly world. Back then, even Father only faced the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Furthermore, How powerful is the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation? Throughout history, according to ancient records, more than half of the paragons and monster incarnates died under the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. If a 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation is truly provoked by him, he might end up dying instead. In reality, Lin Lei could tell that given the current situation, the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation was clearly not Su Zimo's limit. From that point of view, Su Zimo had already surpassed him. Bang! Boom! The 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation was condensed and the color of the lightning was even darker. It had already turned pitch black and emitted a shuddering aura. Lin Lei clenched his fists instinctively. Although he had already undergone the tribulation transcendence many years ago, the sight of the black lightning still evoked some fear in the depths of his memories. Back then, he truly had a slim chance of survival against the impact of the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation. He knew very well how terrifying the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation was. Lin Lei believed that Su Zimo could not defend against the impact of the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation with just his body and bloodline. Boom! The first heavenly tribulation of the 7th level descended. The pitch-black lightning was like a black spear that was indestructible and unstoppable. Su Zimo remained motionless and did not even open his eyes. Just as the black spear was about to pierce the top of his head, he suddenly extended a finger and collided with the black spear. When the spearhead collided with the fingertip, the world trembled. A visible void ripple spread in all directions and airwaves surged with lightning. The black spear shattered. Just like that, the first heavenly tribulation of the 7th level was destroyed by Su Zimo with a single finger. Lin Lei was dumbfounded. He could undergo tribulation transcendence like that. Back then, the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation that slashed him half to death was destroyed by a single finger of this person. There were no divine powers, secret skills, divine weapons, or dharmic treasures. How could Lin Lei know that Su Zimo's green lotus true body had already grown to the peak of grade 11 with the baptism and tempering of the previous heavenly tribulations? There was also the refinement of the taboo mystic classics, the Jade Pure Jade Manual and the Heaven Burial Sutra, on top of the augmentation of the divine elephant breathing technique, the Void Thunder Manual and many other top-tier cultivation techniques. Even top-grade divine weapons could not compare to his physique and bloodline. Boom! The second heavenly tribulation of the 9th level descended. Su Zimo closed 2 fingers and formed a sword art, pointing towards the heavenly tribulation. Bang! The second heavenly tribulation dissipated once more. Boom! 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 A few heavenly tribulations descended from the skies one after another. Su Zimo closed his eyes and merely waved one hand. His fingers, fists, palms and seals changed wantonly and shattered the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation at will. In the blink of an eye, the 8th heavenly tribulation of the 7th level had already ended. The 9th heavenly tribulation condensed continuously in the firmaments and countless lightning bolts spun slowly, forming a pitch-black lightning tide, prepared to accumulate the power of the heavenly tribulation to its peak before pouring down. Right then, Su Zimo raised his head and opened his eyes. A blinding light burst forth from his right eye. Boom! The beam of light charged into the pitch-black lightning tide and exploded it into pieces. Chapter 2675, 2675 Fighting the Heavenly Tribulation. 2675 Fighting the Heavenly Tribulation. Well, Lin Lei and Lin Luo were dumbfounded. That was the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation, the black lightning tide that almost killed Lin Lei back then. But now, it was destroyed by a single gaze from Su Zimo. Even human monarch Lin Zhon and immortal Queen Ling Long revealed shocked expressions, let alone the siblings. The two of them had long known about the bloodline of Su Zimo's green lotus true body. However, they did not expect him to be so powerful. A single visual technique shattered the final lightning tide of the 7 of 9 heavenly tribulation. What kind of method was that? Lin Zhon glanced at Lin Lei beside him. You should have realized the difference between the two of you by now, right? Lin Lei remained silent. This meant that if he was a grade 9 heaven immortal, Su Zimo would be able to suppress him with that visual technique alone. The difference was way too great. Lin Lei clenched his fists and consoled himself internally, thinking to himself, tribulation transcendence is only a process and can't represent future achievements. Perhaps when Su Zimo advances to the perfected one realm and cultivates to my realm, it's still unknown who's stronger. Lin Lei had a preconceived impression of Su Zimo and thought that Su Zimo approached Lin Luo with ulterior motives. That was why he was biased. It was not that Lin Lei was targeting Su Zimo on purpose. It was because over the years, the Battle Kingdom had been plagued by internal and external troubles and was unstable. There were countless enemies and opponents watching them in the dark. There were people who had designs on Lin Luo in the past as well, so Lin Lei had no choice but to be careful. When the two of them first met, Su Zimo was only a grade 5 heaven immortal. Initially, Lin Lei did not take Su Zimo seriously given the disparity in their cultivation realms. But now, when he saw that Su Zimo was showing signs of surpassing him, he could not accept it for a moment. While Lin Lei was letting his imagination run wild, the 8th level of the perfected one heavenly tribulation had already been condensed. Crack! A white heavenly tribulation descended from the skies. This time round, Su Zimo did not stand on the spot. Instead, he soared into the air and charged towards the heavenly tribulation. Back then, the martial Tao Prime body made that choice when he welcomed the 8th level of the true martial heavenly tribulation. Now, the Green Lotus true body chose to fight the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation as well. Boom! Su Zimo raised his hand and punched, colliding with the white heavenly tribulation. His body shuddered and his momentum of soaring into the skies stopped instantly in midair. White electric arcs surged into the Green Lotus true body through his pores, washing through his flesh, bones, and organs. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The power of the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation had been raised to another level. Although the Green Lotus true body received the first 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation, he suffered quite a blow as well. The 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation is no small matter. Lin Zhon said sternly, since ancient times, no one has been able to withstand the impact of the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation with their bodies. Immortal Queen Linglong said, back then, you were severely injured by the impact of the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation and almost lost your life. The situation at that time is still unforgettable. In midair, Su Zimo stood in midair, as though he was digesting the power of the first 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Crack! The 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation did not give him any chance to catch his breath as the second heavenly tribulation arrived instantly. Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he summoned his innate divine power, the 6-tusk divine strength. Behind him, 6 ivory tusks that were as white as jade pierced through his flesh and grew rapidly. They were sharp and emanated a powerful ancient aura. Su Zimo's flesh and essence spirit strength increased by 6 times instantly. Hey! Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Linglong exclaimed softly. The two of them could clearly see 2 other tusks vaguely appear beneath the 6 divine elephant tusks behind Su Zimo. However, the 2 tusks were extremely young and there were only 2 phantoms. They could not compare to the 6 divine elephant tusks at all. Although there were only 2 additional young tusks, Su Zimo exuded a strange aura. Peerless divine power? Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Linglong looked at each other and could tell what the other party was thinking. That innate divine power had already touched the threshold of a peerless divine power. In reality, after Su Zimo obtained the divine elephant breathing technique, he would deduce and comprehend it every time he entered seclusion. After the 6-tusk divine strength was synthesized with the divine elephant breathing technique, that innate divine power gradually transformed as well. However, due to the limitations of his cultivation realm, Su Zimo had yet to completely comprehend it and the 6-tusk divine strength had yet to transform and evolve. If that innate divine power could transform into the 8-tusk divine power, there was a high chance that it would reach the level of a peerless divine power. Boom! With the help of the 6-tusk divine strength, Su Zimo raised his hand once more and shattered the second 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation that descended. The Green Lotus true body endured the first 2 8 of 9 heavenly tribulations with his body. Immediately after, the third heavenly tribulation descended. Spirit Turtle Shield. Suzimo released another innate divine power which was almost his strongest defense so far. Boom! With an earth-shaking bang, the spirit turtle shield shattered. Relying on the enhancement of his two innate divine powers, Suzimo rose against the tide and continued to climb, getting closer and closer to the tribulation clouds in the sky. Crack! The fourth heavenly tribulation descended. Great Vajra Wheel Seal. Great Mount Meru Seal. Two supreme dharmic seals of the Buddhist monasteries erupted in succession. It was as though two gigantic and majestic mountains had descended from the tribulation clouds in the sky, shattering them. However, the heavenly tribulation was not over. Just as the tribulation clouds shattered, they gathered rapidly again. Crack! The fifth heavenly tribulation descended. Killing word art. Incinerating firmament boiling sea. Parameter bridge. Lotus with every step. Star-plucking hand. Suzimo's essence spirit was terrifying and extremely condensed, releasing 5 supreme divine powers in succession. Instantly, the ground shook and the weather changed. Bang! 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 5 supreme divine powers soared into the skies. Not only did they shatter the fifth heavenly tribulation, they charged into the tribulation clouds and stirred them up once more. Lin Zhon was shocked. Given his essence spirit, he was already close to his limit after releasing 3 supreme divine powers in succession. If he forcefully released a 4th supreme divine power, his essence spirit might suffer some hidden injuries. If he released 5 supreme divine powers in succession, his essence spirit would probably collapse first. Crack! The tribulation clouds condensed once more and the 6th 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation descended. White Tiger Corpse Collection. Suzimo's body was filled with a blood fog and malevolent chi as he pointed towards the west. Roar! Accompanied by a deafening roar and violent winds, a gigantic white tiger sacred beast appeared from the west and swallowed the 6th heavenly tribulation in one gulp. Thereafter, the white tiger sacred beast charged into the tribulation clouds and galloped. Under the impact of the white tiger sacred beast, the tribulation clouds condensed much slower. Suzimo's figure continued to rise. The repeated attacks of the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation could not stop him at all. Crack! The 7th heavenly tribulation descended. When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple. The heaven, earth and human slaying sword arts were released at the same time. Billions of sword chi soared into the skies. Countless stars appeared in the firmaments with starlight and sword beams. The dragon snake circled, summoning wind and rain. The sword intent of the human slaying sword art caused the world to spin. Chapter 2676, 2676-9 of 9 Heavenly Tribulation. 2676-9 of 9 Heavenly Tribulation. The 3 sword arts burst forth at the same time and the tribulation clouds in the firmaments were riddled with holes, sliced into pieces. Sword chi surged into the skies and the earth quaked. Even Lin Zhon and the other 3 who were far away at the edge of the valley could sense an intense sharpness that surged towards them like a spike. He was way too strong. Back then, even human monarch Lin Zhon almost died when he defended with all his might against the impact of the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. But now, Suzimo had actually risen against the tide and fought the heavenly tribulation head-on. What was even more terrifying was that Suzimo's every attack was clearly stronger than the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Even the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation could not stop Suzimo's rising figure. Crack! The 8th heavenly tribulation of the 6th level descended. Suzimo channeled his essence spirit and the dharmic art in his hands changed once more. 4 balls of flames of different colors appeared beside him, emitting a terrifying aura. Under the control of his dharmic art, the 4 balls of flames rapidly condensed and fused, forming a gigantic fireball that charged towards the incoming heavenly tribulation. At the same time, an essence spirit flame released from Suzimo's glabella and fused into the fireball. Phew! The flames intensified. The gigantic fireball seemed to have turned into a blazing sun that rose rapidly in the valley. It was blinding and burned the surrounding void until it distorted. Lin Zhon and the other three who were standing at the edge of the valley felt the sharpness of the sword chi earlier on. In the blink of an eye, it was as though they were at the mouth of a volcano. Their faces shone with red light and they had shocked expressions. The Pankadi Dao fire erupted. Boom! The heavenly tribulation collided with the fireball with a loud bang. The heavenly tribulation dissipated and a huge hole was blasted in the fireball. The surface of the ball was filled with cracks and countless fire rain fell. However, the dharmic Dao of the Pankadi Dao fire had yet to dissipate. Go! Under Su Zimo's holler, the fireball that was about to shatter continued to rise and charged into the tribulation clouds before exploding. Boom! A red light exploded from the tribulation clouds and burst forth with a blinding glow that spread rapidly, enveloping all the tribulation cloud. Red clouds filled the skies and all the tribulation clouds seemed to have burned, forming shattered clouds of fire. Half of the sky was burning. There was only one more 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation left. It was also the most powerful one among all the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulations. Although the tribulation clouds in the sky were burned red, they still tried to condense, wanting to release the last 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. At that moment, Su Zimo had already arrived in the firmaments and stood in the middle of the tribulation clouds. His gaze was deep as he surveyed his surroundings. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and roared. Grr! A deafening dragon roar that reverberated through the world burst forth. That roar was filled with endless might. The dragon roar secret skill was released. The roar almost materialized and shook the void, forming visible ripples that swept in all directions like water wave. The tribulation cloud that had just condensed was shattered by the roar before it could release the final 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation. The tribulation clouds dissipated and the sky returned to blue. Well. Lin Lei's gaze was dull and he could not recover for a moment. You can undergo tribulation transcendence like that? Lin Lei widened his eyes and could not help but ask. He shattered the final 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation with a single roar. Even after witnessing it with his own eyes, he still could not believe it. Immortal Queen Ling Long shook her head gently. To be precise, it's not just a sound domain secret skill. In reality, Zimo had the upper hand in every round of divine powers and secret skills. There were some dharmic Daos such as dharmic powers, sharp sword intent and searing flames accumulating continuously in the tribulation clouds before erupting completely with that roar. Lin Lei was enlightened. The heavenly tribulation continued to accumulate power as lightning descended one after another. It was only when the 9th heavenly tribulation arrived that this power was pushed to its limits. As for Su Zimo, he countered attacks with attacks. Similar to the heavenly tribulation, he was also accumulating continuously. In the end, he was able to erupt and defeat the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation in one go. Lin Lei could no longer tell if the heavenly tribulation was transcending Su Zimo or Su Zimo was undergoing tribulation transcendence. Lin Luo had just snapped out of her daze and chuckled. Although Brother Su and Father both underwent the 8 of 9 heavenly tribulation, Brother Su is clearly in a much more relaxed state than Father was. He's almost unharmed. Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long did not say anything. Instead, they looked at the sky above the valley with grim expressions. Father, Mother, I'll go over and congratulate Brother Su. Lin Luo said with a smile and was about to step forward. Immortal Queen Ling Long suddenly reached out and pulled Lin Luo back. What's wrong? Lin Luo was a little puzzled. When she saw her mother's strange expression, she followed their gazes. Above the valley, Su Zimo was still standing in midair with his head raised slightly, having no intention of leaving. At some point in time, thick tribulation clouds appeared in the blue sky. The tribulation clouds seemed to come from the end of the world. In the depths of the firmaments, they shone brightly from time to time and were filled with a terrifying aura that made one shudder. This is. Lin Luo gradually opened her mouth and paused for a moment before exclaiming, 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Lin Lei shuddered slightly when he heard that. There had never been a single 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation in the heavenly world in 1,000,000 years. In the past 1,000,000 years, only Desolate Marshal of the Fiend Domain had reached that level. Although the upper world was known to have the Trichilia chasm, there should not be more than 100 monster incarnates who could attract the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation in this generation. But now, he was lucky enough to witness it with his own eyes. It was only at that moment that he understood the deeper meaning behind why Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long wanted to let them siblings stay and watch. The 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation nurtured many dharmic Taos. Being able to watch from the side was extremely beneficial to their cultivation. Furthermore, it was rumored that a peerless divine power would descend in the final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. That was an opportunity for everyone who could watch. In the end, it would depend on who could seize that opportunity. The tribulation clouds condensed and a terrifying pressure descended slowly. Before the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation descended, Su Zimo, who was above the valley, felt immense pressure. Although the martial Tao Prime body had experienced the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation before, the Green Lotus True Body could only feel the pressure of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation after experiencing it for himself. It was a suffocating and irresistible might. Su Zimo's gaze was burning and he had a fearless expression. He knew that the previous 8 heavenly tribulations combined could not compare to the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. However, he was not afraid at all. His Tao heart was indestructible and unshakable. Crack! Finally, thunder exploded. The first 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation descended. Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he soared into the skies, resisting the first 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation with his Green Lotus True Body. This scene was like a moth flying into a flame. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, a gigantic halo burst forth in midair and spread continuously. A figure descended from the skies and landed heavily on the ground. Chapter 2677, 2677 Destruction and Rebirth. 2677 Destruction and Rebirth. A human-shaped pit appeared in the middle of the valley. It was covered in scorch marks and billowing green smoke. Before long, a charred figure stood up slowly from the huge pit. Su Zimo's green robes were tattered from the first 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation and his entire body seemed to have been burned into charcoal. Through his tattered clothes, one could clearly see that the surface of Su Zimo's body was cracked and there were faint scarlet bloodstains. During the tribulation transcendence earlier on, not only was Su Zimo not injured, he even rose against the tide and released many divine powers and secret skills, passing the 8th level of the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation with incomparable ease. But now, the first 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation had already dealt such a terrifying blow to him. Immortal Queen Ling Long was a little worried and said in a deep voice, "The 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation is known as an extreme heavenly tribulation that destroys everything. According to what I know, many monster incarnate living beings who attracted the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation failed to survive. This was only the first 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. The later it was, the stronger the heavenly tribulation was." Crack! The second 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation descended. Unlike usual, Su Zimo did not release any divine powers, secret skills, or divine weapons. Stomping the ground, he soared into the air once more and endured the heavenly tribulation with his body. Boom! Su Zimo's figure fell into the huge pit earlier on at an even faster speed. Cough, cough. This time round, Su Zimo was beaten even more miserably. He crawled out of the huge pit slowly with injuries all over his body and coughed out large mouthfuls of blood with a dispirited expression. "Mother, what is he doing?" Lin Luo was a little anxious and could not help but ask, "Even if you want to temper your body, isn't that too risky?" Lin Luo was not the only one. Lin Lei did not know either. However, Su Zimo looked like he had lost half his life from the 2 heavenly tribulations. How could he withstand the remaining 7 heavenly tribulations? Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long had long been conferred the title of king and their judgment was even more brilliant. They could tell something else from Su Zimo. Su Zimo's injuries were indeed serious. However, the life force in his body was endless as well. Everlasting vitality was healing his injuries crazily. The speed of recovery was extremely terrifying. Unfortunately, the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath. The third 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation descended once more. This time round, Suzimo stood on the spot motionlessly, allowing the third heavenly tribulation to arrive and penetrate his body. His chest and lower abdomen had been pierced and his organs were destroyed. Lightning circled continuously, blocking the self-healing of the green lotus true body. More than half of the flesh on his arms and feet was washed away by the third heavenly tribulation, revealing the green bones inside. The third 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation almost washed away Suzimo's flesh, leaving only a green skeleton standing on the spot in a shocking manner. His injuries were way too severe. Indeed, grade 9 heaven immortals could be reborn with a drop of blood. However, there were restrictions. Under the envelopment of such a terrifying heavenly tribulation power, it was impossible for him to recover from his injuries, let alone use blood rebirth. Lin Lei estimated that if he were to suffer such a serious injury, he would probably have to recuperate for a year and a half before he could recover. What a pity! Lin Lei thought to himself. In his eyes, Suzimo was indeed above him to be able to attract the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Unfortunately, the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation could also take Suzimo's life. If Suzimo was already beaten to such a state by the third 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation, how should he defend against the next 6? It was a situation of absolute death. During the process of tribulation transcendence, it was useless even if someone saved him. Just as Lin Lei was deep in thought, his gaze swept past Suzimo once more and his expression changed as he exclaimed softly. Surrounded by countless lightning bolts, flesh grew rapidly on Suzimo's bones and his shattered organs healed crazily. The speed of self-healing was too fast and could be seen with the naked eye. Endless life force surged through Suzimo's body and he was almost enveloped by a green glow, filled with vitality. What's going on? Lin Lei was dumbfounded. Only Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long could tell something. Suzimo had the body of the creation green lotus and his self-healing ability far surpassed other living beings and other bloodlines. But now, Suzimo made use of the power of the heavenly tribulation thunderbolts to unleash the healing power of the creation green lotus to its limit. Apart from destruction, lightning contained life force as well. Everything in the world would be revived with the sound of lightning in the spring. Apart from severely injuring the green lotus true body, the lightning that descended from the skies also awakened all the life force of the green lotus true body. Shatter and recovery. Destruction and rebirth. Throughout the entire process, the green lotus true body transformed continuously and was reborn, growing rapidly towards the peak of grade 12. In just a few breaths, Suzimo's flesh regenerated and he returned to normal. His condition was even better than before and there were no injuries on his body. When the martial Tao prime body attempted the first 3 9 of 9 heavenly tribulations, he relied on his martial Tao body to survive. Although the green lotus true body had not reached that level, he was safe even after the 3 heavenly tribulations thanks to the powerful bloodline of the creation green lotus. The 4th heavenly tribulation did not have a specific form. Instead, it was the bloodline tribulation that acted directly on Suzimo's body. Suzimo channeled his blood chi and green light burst forth from his body. His blood chi rose and his aura increased exponentially. The green lotus bloodline in his body circulated and the sound of a tsunami rumbled. Ever since Suzimo ascended, he had almost never used the green lotus bloodline because he was worried that his green lotus true body would be exposed. Now that the green lotus bloodline that he had suppressed for a long time was completely released, he felt an unprecedented joy. What bloodline is that? Lin Lei looked at Suzimo in the middle of the valley and frowned slightly with a puzzled expression. Given his experience, he could not recognize the origin of Suzimo's bloodline. After the bloodline tribulation, the 5th heavenly tribulation was the essence spirit tribulation. The essence spirit tribulation descended silently and formlessly into Suzimo's consciousness. Under normal circumstances, the essence spirit tribulation was the most dangerous of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Throughout history, many monster incarnates died because of this essence spirit tribulation. However, although the essence spirit tribulation was terrifying, it posed no threat to Suzimo. His essence spirit was way too strong. After the Green Lotus Essence Spirit synthesized with the Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit, it cultivated the taboo mystic classic, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, which was known as the #1 spirit refinement technique. Even before the Tribulation Transcendence, his essence spirit realm had already reached the perfected one realm. Furthermore, Suzimo controlled many essence spirit secret skills. The Green Lotus Essence Spirit sat on the lotus platform with many lotus seeds surrounding him. The lotus platform beneath him spewed countless green rays of light. The Essence Spirit Tribulation descended silently and ended without a trace. After the Essence Spirit Tribulation, it was the 6th Heavenly Tribulation, the Tao Heart Tribulation. This was a test of a cultivator's Tao heart. Be it the Green Lotus True Body or the Martial Tao Prime Body, their Tao hearts were the same and they were on the same level. Back then, the true Martial Heavenly Tribulation could not shake the Tao heart of the Martial Tao Prime Body. Naturally, the Tao Heart Tribulation today could not threaten the Green Lotus True Body. The 7th Heavenly Tribulation was the Karma Tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the sky surged and sparks floated down, landing on Suzimo's body and igniting instantly. The flames burned rapidly from the inside out. Karmic fire burned karma. Suzimo's expression was unchanged. As he endured the pain, he sensed the dharmic Tao contained in the karmic fire on his body to improve the red lotus karmic fire he cultivated. Chapter 2678, 2678 The Final Tribulation. 2678 The Final Tribulation. Under the burning of the red lotus karmic fire, Suzimo almost turned into a gigantic flaming man. His entire body was flushed red and his bones turned almost transparent. However, a tremendous vitality continued to surge in his body, resisting the red lotus karmic fire. Suzimo controlled 5 powerful flames himself. While enduring immense pain after receiving the baptism of the red lotus karmic fire, he could also comprehend the dharmic Tao of flames from it. The red lotus karmic fire lasted for an extremely long time. However, the life force in Suzimo's body was never extinguished. In front of him was a fiery red fan. It was the 7 Tails Phoenix Feather Fan. Under the tempering of the red lotus karmic fire, the 7 Tails Phoenix Feather Fan was also transforming. Initially, the fan only had 7 fan bones. But now, it was gradually condensing an 8th or even 9th fan bone. Roar. As time passed, an earth-shaking roar sounded from the fan. When the 7 Tails Phoenix Feather Fan landed in Suzimo's hands, the spirit of the divine phoenix inside had already awakened. However, that roar was not the voice of the divine phoenix at all. Suzimo injected the power of his essence spirit into the fan and fanned it gently. Phew! Immediately after, a terrifying demon beast crawled out of the fan. It was bathed in flames and resembled a dragon and phoenix. Its dragon horns were towering and its claws were sharp. It even had a pair of wings on its back. Taboo Dragon Phoenix, Lin Zhon said sternly. Immortal Queen Ling Long nodded. His fan has already transformed into a 9 Tribulations pure yang spirit treasure. After the Taboo Dragon Phoenix appeared, it guarded Suzimo and circled him continuously, devouring the red lotus karmic fire in large mouthfuls and helping Suzimo resist the karma tribulation. The pressure on Suzimo decreased rapidly and his flesh and bones were healing at a visible speed. Finally, the 7th tribulation ended. The 8th tribulation descended. The weapon tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the sky surged and the power of the heavenly tribulation within condensed continuously. In fact, it even transformed into various divine weapons and dharmic treasures that descended from the skies like rain. Although they were not true dharmic treasures, they were even more terrifying than true dharmic treasures. Every divine weapon and dharmic treasure contained the power of the 8th heavenly tribulation condensed in a pure manner and was frighteningly lethal. The power of each divine weapon was equivalent to a 9 tribulations pure yang spirit treasure. Right now, weapons rained down with a terrifying might, slashing towards Suzimo in the valley. Such a terrifying scene sent chills down one's spine. There were ancient bells, heavy cauldrons, sharp sabers, swords, and long arrows that tore through the air. There were also many unorthodox weapons such as horsetail whips, needles, ancient mirrors, pearls, jade butterflies. Everywhere that was visible was filled with killing intent that filled the skies with a cold glint. That's too terrifying. Lin Luo was speechless and exclaimed softly. Even the proud Lin Lei had a thought. How could mere human strength withstand such a heavenly tribulation? Ah! Right then, Su Zimo suddenly roared and released his supreme divine power, 3 heads 6 arms. Instead of retreating, he advanced and leaped into the air. Suddenly, a few weapons appeared in his hands. A horsetail whip that was emerald green danced with 3,000 threads of dust. There was also an exquisite auspicious jade. The head was in the shape of an auspicious cloud and was embedded with 3 beads. There were also 9 dragons circling around the handle. One of his palms grabbed a handful of seemingly ordinary yellow sand. His 4th hand held the 9 tails dragon phoenix fan. The remaining 2 free hands held different immortal seals. Prior to this, Su Zimo did not summon the primordial unity horsetail whip, Trinity auspicious jade and 9 heavens living soil mainly because there was no need. The 3 divine weapons were a part of his body to begin with. At the same time as tempering the green lotus true body, the 3 divine weapons could be tempered. But now, in the face of the weapon tribulation, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless and summoned the 3 divine weapons and the 9 tails dragon phoenix fan that had just transformed into a 9 tribulations spirit treasure. Not only that, Su Zimo changed hand seals continuously and communicated with the ancient stars, releasing the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram. Behind the tribulation clouds in the sky, a large number of stars appeared faintly and endless starlight scattered down, surging into Su Zimo's body. Borrowing the power of billions of stars, Su Zimo released 3 heads 6 arms. Wielding the 4 divine weapons, he went against the heavens and charged into the weapon tribulation. Clang, 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 boom, boom, boom. In midair, the sound of divine weapons clashing could be heard and sparks flew. The killing intent of the weapon tribulation came from all directions. As for Su Zimo, with the help of 3 heads 6 arms and a defensive dharmic treasure like the 9 heavens living soil, he could be protected from almost everything. Even if he was struck by some divine weapons and dharmic treasures, he could defend against them head-on with his green lotus true body that was infinitely close to grade 12. The weapons were endless and Su Zimo relied on his powerful and robust blood chi to fight against them. Su Zimo was like a tireless god of war as he rampaged through the sea of weapons that covered the skies, shattering the countless divine weapons and dharmic treasures condensed from the heavenly tribulation into nothingness. He's too strong. Even Lin Lei could not help but express it at this moment. If he were in the same position in the past, he might not have been able to last more than 3 breaths. After an unknown period of time, the divine weapons and dharmic treasures in the sky gradually thinned and were knocked down by Su Zimo before dissipating. The 8th heavenly tribulation was over. Su Zimo stood in midair and took deep breaths to recover his essence chi. When the 4 people at the edge of the valley saw Su Zimo successfully pass the 8th heavenly tribulation, not only did they not relax, they even became nervous. That was because after the weapon tribulation ended, there was only the last heavenly tribulation left. The 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation, the pinnacle of the perfected 1 heavenly tribulation. No matter what paragon or monster incarnate anyone were, they might die in the final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Of course, if they could survive it successfully, it would be an unimaginable opportunity for those undergoing the tribulation transcendence. That was because the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation was also known as the divine power tribulation. Typically, a peerless divine power would descend from the final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Even the 4 people watching from the side also had a chance to cultivate this peerless divine power. However, the 4 of them were only spectators after all and were far from experiencing the tribulation transcendence of that peerless divine power personally. Mother. Lin Luo had a worried expression and said softly, from the looks of it, he's almost used up all his trump cards. I wonder if he can survive. Immortal Queen Ling Long remained silent. Su Zimo's condition was indeed not bad. After receiving the impact of the heavenly tribulation, not only did he not suffer any losses, his aura and strength even surpassed when he had just undergone tribulation transcendent. However, The final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation was no small matter. It was far from what the weapon tribulation earlier on could compare to. Without extraordinary methods, there was no way he could survive. Even Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long were not confident. Even though they had long been conferred the title of kings and condensed their grotto heavens, this was the first time they had witnessed the legendary 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. The two of them did not know what level the final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation would reach either. Lin Zhon said softly, "There are only a few peerless divine powers in the upper world. If he's lucky and meets with a peerless divine power with relatively weaker killing power, he should be able to tide through it successfully." Chapter 2679, 2679 4 heads 8 arms. 2679 4 heads 8 arms. In reality, divine powers that could be called peerless were not weak at all. However, some peerless divine powers focused in different directions. What Lin Zhon meant was that if a peerless divine power like astral imprisonment descended, it would be less of a threat to Su Zimo. However, if it was something like the legendary 6 paths of reincarnation that was extremely terrifying, Su Zimo would be in danger. Although the 4 of them stood at the edge of the valley and watched, they were still nervous. After the 8th tribulation disappeared, the last 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation did not appear for a long time, as though it was giving Su Zimo enough time to rest. Finally, the tribulation clouds in the sky churned, forming a gigantic vortex that emitted a majestic might. At the center of the vortex, it was as though a terrifying living being was awakening. Its aura became stronger and rose continuously. There, light and darkness intertwined, as though a single eye was staring at Su Zimo in the middle of the valley. What peerless divine power is that? Lin Lei could not help but ask. Immortal Queen Ling Long shook her head gently and recalled carefully. She said in confusion, "I'm not sure. The precursor and aura of this peerless divine power are different from the peerless divine powers I know." Finally, a tall figure appeared gradually from the tribulation clouds. He was bathed in lightning and his muscles were knotted, like hard rocks embedded in his body. The living being was nearly 100 feet tall and had no facial features or appearance. This was a living being condensed from the power of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. What's going on? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The martial Tao prime body had once attracted an unprecedented 10th tribulation. Only in the 10th tribulation would such a terrifying expert appear. Now was merely the final 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Why did such a terrifying living being suddenly appear? Su Zimo faced the tall godly being in midair, as insignificant as an ant. Lin Zhon frowned and said in a deep voice, "I've never seen such a peerless divine power either. The power in this living being's body is so powerful." The living being lowered its head slightly and faced Su Zimo with its featureless face, as though it was looking at the tiny human in front of it. Suddenly, the tall living being extended a finger and pressed down towards Su Zimo's head. A large shadow appeared and Su Zimo's vision darkened. A single finger released an incomparably ferocious and violent aura, as though it wanted to crush him into blood foam. Su Zimo's expression was cold and the fighting spirit in his eyes rose once more. So what if it was a living being that was 100 feet tall? He had killed living beings that were 1,000 feet or even 10,000 feet tall. Furthermore, this tall living being was only condensed from the last 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation and was not a true living being at all. Su Zimo gathered the power in his body and soared into the air. He waved the primordial unity horsetail whip and trinity auspicious jade towards the finger of the tall living being. Bang! A loud bang sounded from midair and the finger stopped. Thereafter, the tall living being felt pain and his arm trembled slightly before he suddenly retracted. Roar! Deep roars sounded from the body of the tall living being, as though Su Zimo's counterattack enraged him. Suddenly, the hands of the tall living being began to conjure a series of strange dharmic arts as his fingers intersected and changed continuously. Immortal Queen Ling Long's eyes lit up as she hurriedly said, "Watch this dharmic art carefully." Lin Lei and Lin Luo looked over hurriedly. After a series of dharmic arts, the aura of the tall living being increased exponentially. Suddenly, 2 brand new heads appeared on his neck. Accompanying them were 4 new arms. When he saw that, Lin Lei was stunned and murmured softly, "Isn't that 3 heads 6 arms? It's just a supreme divine power. It's nothing much, right?" The moment he said that, another head appeared beside the 3 heads of the tall god. At the same time, 2 more arms grew out of the 6 arms. "This is..." Lin Lei was shocked. 4 heads 8 arms. Immortal Queen Ling Long exclaimed. A puzzled look flashed through Lin Zhon's eyes as he glanced sideways and asked, "I've only heard that the legendary Azura race has the innate divine power of 3 heads 6 arms when they advance to the Emperor realm. What's with this 4 heads 8 arms?" Even with Lin Zhon's knowledge, he had never heard of 4 heads 8 arms. Immortal Queen Ling Long explained, "Back when I accepted Great Empress Nine Heaven's mystic maiden's inheritance, I saw some ancient portraits in the ruins with 4 heads and 8 arms carved on them. That peerless divine power has been lost for many years. To think that it would be passed down again in this generation and land on Zimo." A hint of disappointment flashed through Lin Lei's eyes. Initially, he was looking forward to having a chance to learn and comprehend peerless divine powers such as the immortal vanquishing sword, 6 paths of reincarnation and eternal night. In his knowledge, 4 heads 8 arms did not seem to be something impressive. Lin Lei muttered, "It's just 1 head and 2 arms more than 3 heads 6 arms. His combat strength won't increase much either." Immortal Queen Ling Long shook her head. 4 heads 8 arms is not as simple as having an additional head and 2 arms. Back at the Divine Firmament Immortal meet, the reason why Su Zimo could hold an absolute advantage and suppress Yun Ting was because of 3 heads 6 arms. If he had another head and 2 arms, Su Zimo's combat strength would increase exponentially. Immortal Queen Ling Long pondered for a moment and said, "This peerless divine power has been lost for many years. There must be a deeper meaning for it to suddenly descend on Zimo in this generation. It's just that I can't explain it clearly yet." Immortal Queen Ling Long did not explain and continued watching. In midair, Su Zimo was stunned when he saw the tall living being condensed 4 heads 8 arms. In the 8 arms of the tall living being, he held the sun and moon condensed from the heavenly tribulation in 2 hands. He held a treasure bell in 1 hand, a golden seal in another, a bow in another and a halberd in another. He held immortal dharmic seals with his 2 free hands. The tall living being waved his 8 arms and charged towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo was fearless. Waving his 3 heads 6 arms, the 9 heavens living soil, primordial unity horsetail whip, Trinity auspicious jade and 9 tails dragon phoenix fan, he fought against the tall living being. In melee combat, no one could defend against the killing power of the Green Lotus true body. Even Yun Ting was suppressed when he was in his 3 heads 6 arms state. Clang, clang, boom, boom, boom. A huge battle broke out between the 2 of them as divine weapons and dharmic treasures collided continuously. They fought in melee combat, causing violent winds to howl and sand to fly, even the world trembled. The moment they exchanged blows, Su Zimo realized that something was amiss. The strength of this tall living being was not inferior to him at all and was even above him. Furthermore, the tall living being displayed extremely brilliant melee combat killing techniques. Against Su Zimo's attacks, he was at ease and could even counterattack. Actually, this tall living being was condensed from the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Throughout history, many paragons and monster incarnates had gone against the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. The melee combat killing techniques of the paragons and monster incarnates had already been absorbed by the heavenly tribulation. Now, they were all augmented on the tall living being. Chapter 2680 Quasi-Peerless Divine Power. 2680 Quasi-Peerless Divine Power. His too strong. Lin Zhon, who was watching from the side, could not help but sigh. Under normal circumstances, even the power released by the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation would not cause an immortal king expert to sigh. However, the battle between the 2 parties had already reached the peak combat strength that could be released at that level, and it was an eye-opener for him. Human monarch Lin Zhon had powerful blood chi and an invincible body. He was the strongest in melee combat. Among those of the same cultivation realm, There were only a handful of Immortal King experts who could defend against his melee combat attacks. But now, Lin Zhon felt that he would definitely not be able to withstand the attacks of this tall living being if he were in Su Zimo's shoes. In melee combat, 3 heads 6 arms could increase one's strength by a notch. In that case, 4 heads 8 arms would allow a cultivator's combat strength to rise even more. Lin Zhon said in a deep voice that peerless divine power is simply the strongest dharmic Dao in melee combat. Immortal Queen Ling Long nodded and paused for a moment before shaking her head. In her opinion, the significance of 4 heads 8 arms to Su Zimo was probably not just a peerless divine power that could increase melee combat strength. Throughout history, there were countless paragons and monster incarnates who were good at melee combat. If it was only a peerless divine power that could increase melee combat, it would have been passed down long ago. However, 4 heads 8 arms had disappeared for a long period of time. Initially, it was in the era of Great Empress Nine Heaven's Mystic Maiden before going dormant for many years. Finally, it descended into the world again in this generation. Above the valley, Su Zimo, who had 3 heads 6 arms and wielded 4 divine weapons, fought continuously against the tall living being with 4 heads 8 arms and 6 dharmic treasures. Su Zimo's melee combat was extremely strong and his attacks were ferocious. At times, he resembled a divine dragon. At times, he took on the form of an anaconda. At times, he was as agile as an ape, and at times, he was as ferocious as a tiger. Apart from what he learned in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, his close-range offensive skills were also tempered through countless life and death experiences and bloodshed. Up till this point of his ascension, even a rare monster incarnate like Yun Ting was suppressed by him. But now, Su Zimo was at a disadvantage against the tall living being with 4 heads 8 arms. Initially, both parties could still maintain their attacks. As time passed, Su Zimo's counterattacks decreased and he could only defend passively in the end. In fact, Su Zimo even released the 9 palace subtle steps, wanting to resolve the attacks of the tall living being. However, when he released that footwork, the tall living being followed him like a shadow. The latter also released the 9 palace subtle steps and followed every single step. The memories of countless monster incarnates from ancient times who had faced the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation were gathered on the tall living being. It was not surprising that he could release the 9 palace subtle steps. His 2 fears. Immortal Queen Ling Long had a grim expression and deep worry in her eyes. I've never even seen many of this living being's melee combat killing techniques. Lin Zhon nodded as well. Both parties are about the same in strength. However, this living being has more and stronger offensive skills. With an additional head and 2 arms, Zimo has no advantage at all. Immortal Queen Ling Long said, Zimo's bloodline is special. If he can defend against the attacks of this living being and continue dragging it out, there might be a turn of events. The blood chi of the Green Lotus true body was strong and robust, specializing in attrition fights. However, Lin Zhon shook his head gently. Not necessarily. This living being is completely condensed from the power of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. As long as the heavenly tribulation doesn't dissipate, his strength is endless as well. If this drags on, Zimo's bloodline won't be able to hold on either. In reality, Su Zimo had the same thought as well. He wanted to exhaust the power of this tall living being as much as possible. However, after fighting for a long time, the power released by the tall living being did not show any signs of weakening. However, he was already feeling weak under such a high-intensity resistance. I can't drag this on any longer. With a thought, Su Zimo's 3 pairs of eyes intensified and shone brightly as his aura increased exponentially. The tall living being with 4 heads 8 arms was evolved from a peerless divine power after all. Only the power of a peerless divine power can go against another peerless divine power. Right now, Su Zimo had yet to truly master a peerless divine power. However, the secret skills he mastered had already touched the threshold of a peerless divine power. Su Zimo's 3 heads channeled his essence spirit at the same time and his 6 arms conjured different dharmic arts. In front of Su Zimo, a gigantic blood-colored sword appeared between his hand seals, emitting an extremely sharp killing intent. The sharpness of the blood-colored sword seemed to be able to slash through everything, vanquishing all immortals and fiends alike. After the blood-colored sword appeared, even the tribulation clouds above the tall living being's head were pierced by the sword chi, revealing a gigantic hole. The Immortal Vanquishing Sword. Immortal Queen Ling Long's eyes lit up. Immortal Vanquishing Sword, the peerless divine power that's combined from the three great sword arts? Lin Lei asked in shock. He was already at the peak of the perfected One Realm and had yet to master a peerless divine power. Su Zimo was only a grade 9 heaven immortal and he had already mastered a peerless divine power. Immortal Queen Ling Long quickly shook her head. It's only the embryonic form of the Immortal Vanquishing Sword. It hasn't truly reached the level of a peerless divine power. Lin Zhon said, even so, the power of this Immortal Vanquishing Sword far surpasses other supreme divine powers and has reached the level of a quasi-peerless divine power. The moment the Immortal Vanquishing Sword was condensed, Su Zimo's other head and two arms emitted a blinding golden light. Immediately after, tall figures appeared beside Su Zimo. Buddhas appeared, stepping on lotus flowers and holding dharmic weapons, chanting sutras and paying respects to the Buddha. Sanskrit reverberated through the world incessantly. At the same time, divine dragons circled around the Buddhas and divine elephants roared into the skies. The valley seemed to have formed a pure land of bliss and a nation of Buddhas. A blinding golden light soared into the skies and pierced through the tribulation clouds in the sky, filling the skies with multicolored light. Buddha Dragon Elephant! Lin Lei exclaimed. Back at the Nine Firmament meet, Supreme Arhat Shawunyan had released this supreme divine power. Furthermore, Buddha Dragon Elephant had already touched the threshold of a peerless divine power in Shawunyan's hands and its power increased greatly. Lin Lei had not expected that the divine power released in Su Zimo's hands would be the exact same as Shawunyan's dharmic art back then. This meant that his Buddha Dragon Elephant had already reached the level of a quasi-peerless divine power. After the Immortal Vanquishing Sword and Buddha Dragon Elephant were released, they affected the tribulation clouds in the sky greatly. As for the thick tribulation clouds, they were the source of power for the tall living being. The impact on the tribulation clouds clearly caused the aura of the tall living being to weaken significantly. Right then, Su Zimo's remaining two arms completed a dharmic art as well. A terrifying aura spread. This aura was definitely not inferior to the Immortal Vanquishing Sword and Buddha Dragon Elephant. Pest! Lin Lei gasped. Shawunyan controlled a quasi-peerless divine power and was enough to become the number one of the Arhat ranking and be conferred the title of Supreme Arhat. But now, there were three quasi-peerless divine powers. Furthermore, they were all released by a single person at the same time. Chapter 2681, 2681 Grade 12 Creation Green Lotus. 2681 Grade 12 Creation Green Lotus. Even Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long were shocked. If someone could control a quasi-peerless divine power, he would have a chance to master a true peerless divine power. But now, Su Zimo released three quasi-peerless divine powers at the same time. This meant that he might be able to control three peerless divine powers in the future. One would already be invincible in the perfected One Realm if they could control a single peerless divine power. What would happen if one could control three of them? Immortal Queen Ling Long could see the future with even more clarity and depth. I finally know why the peerless divine power, 4 heads 8 arms, descended on Su Zimo in this generation. Immortal Queen Ling Long suddenly said. Why? This time round, it was not only Lin Lei and Lin Luo. Even Lin Zhon looked over with a puzzled gaze. Immortal Queen Ling Long pointed at Su Zimo's figure in midair and said in a deep voice, "What's truly terrifying about Zimo isn't the three peerless divine powers." Lin Zhon seemed to have thought of something and came to a realization. He continued, "It's the fact that he's able to release all three peerless divine powers at the same time." That's right. Immortal Queen Ling Long nodded. What does that mean? Lin Luo had a blank expression and did not understand the conversation between Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long. Lin Lei was puzzled as well. Immortal Queen Ling Long explained, "The power of a peerless divine power is extremely great. Once released, It's enough to sweep through those of the same cultivation realm and suppress all perfected immortals. Since ancient times, perfected immortals who could master a peerless divine power are extremely rare. Perfected immortals who can master 2 peerless divine powers are even rarer. As for peerless divine powers, the consumption of the essence spirit is extremely intense as well. Even if someone masters 2 peerless divine powers, they won't be able to release them consecutively in a short period of time. Lin Lei and Lin Luo nodded. Even releasing 2 supreme divine powers in a short period of time was a huge burden on the essence spirit, let alone peerless divine powers. Only top perfected immortals like Lin Lei could release multiple supreme divine powers in succession. As for peerless divine powers, the consumption of the essence spirit was even more terrifying. If he released 2 peerless divine powers in succession, his essence spirit would probably collapse right away. At that thought, Lin Lei and Lin Luo were shocked and looked at the figure in midair at the same time. The two of them finally understood what Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long meant. With the help of 3 heads 6 arms, Su Zimo released 3 peerless divine powers at the same time. This was even more terrifying than releasing 3 peerless divine powers in succession. There was definitely a gap between the consecutive release of peerless divine powers. With 3 heads 6 arms, 3 peerless divine powers were condensed and released at the same time. This was equivalent to fusing the power of 3 peerless divine powers. A single peerless divine power was enough to suppress all perfected immortals. When 3 peerless divine powers were released, what level would that power reach? Lin Luo took a deep breath and composed himself. Mother, you just said that the peerless divine power of 4 heads 8 arms is going to be inherited by Brother Su in this generation. This means that in the future, he might be able to control 4. I don't know either. Immortal Queen Ling Long shook her head slightly. There were few people who could comprehend a single peerless divine power. Immortal Queen Ling Long did not dare to imagine that a single person could comprehend 3 or 4 peerless divine powers. Lin Zhon heaved a sigh of relief. The power released by 3 quasi-peerless divine powers at the same time has already reached another level. He should be able to defend against the peerless divine powers of 4 heads 8 arms. Immortal Queen Ling Long nodded as well. If nothing unexpected happened, Su Zimo should be able to survive the last 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Lin Lei asked, Su Zimo's first 2 quasi-peerless divine powers are the Immortal Vanquishing Sword and Buddha Dragon Elephant. What's the last one? Immortal Queen Ling Long released her spirit consciousness and sensed it. She pondered for a moment and said, it should be a divine power that can reduce one's lifespan. Not good. Before she could finish, Immortal Queen Ling Long's expression changed. What's wrong? Lin Luo was shocked. Immortal Queen Ling Long said, this tall living being was condensed from the heavenly tribulation. It doesn't have actual flesh, essence spirit, or lifespan. This quasi-peerless divine power should be useless against it. As the 4 of them conversed, the 3 quasi-peerless divine powers had already erupted and landed on the tall living being at the same time. The Immortal Vanquishing Sword tore through the void and a blood beam descended from the sky, shattering the sun and moon and beheading the tall living being. The Buddhas attacked at the same time and a gigantic golden palm descended from the skies, shattering the second head of the tall living being. The divine dragons and divine elephants charged forward and knocked the tall living being back continuously. The 2 quasi-peerless divine powers caused obvious damage to the tall living being. Only the 3rd quasi-peerless divine power, Fleeting Moment, landed on the tall living being and vanished without causing any ripples. Roar! Roar! The tall living being was severely injured and an angry roar sounded from his body. Of the 3 quasi-peerless divine powers, only 2 exploded. In the end, they could not suppress the tall living being instantly. Now, the tall living being charged towards Su Zimo once more. Above his head, the originally shattered tribulation clouds showed signs of condensing again. An endless stream of heavenly tribulation surged into the body of the tall living being once more. At his 2 severed necks, the embryonic forms of 2 new heads gradually appeared. Once 4 heads 8 arms reappeared, the strength of the tall living being would recover to his peak. Su Zimo had a calm gaze and his expression was composed when he saw that fleeting moment had no effect. His melee combat with the tall living being earlier on was not completely fruitless. As the two of them fought, a large amount of the power of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation surged into his body and finally refined and cleansed the green lotus true body. In a flash, Su Zimo charged towards the tall living being. At the same time, his aura rose rapidly. The moment he collided with the tall living being, the aura in his body reached its peak. Then, as though he had broken through some barrier, he leaped into the skies. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shaking bang, the surrounding void distorted continuously and the world trembled slightly. Mountains collapsed and the ground cracked around the valley. Even the mountain peak beneath the feet of Lin Zhon and the other three began to collapse. The four of them stood in midair and looked fixedly at the sky above the valley as an incomparably shocking scene appeared before them. In midair, Su Zimo's figure had already vanished and was replaced by a tall emerald green lotus. Countless roots took root in the ground and the lotus stem soared into the sky, swaying slightly. The lotus flower at the top broke through the tribulation clouds and bloomed silently in the center. Lotus petals bloomed continuously and were filled with billions of green rays of light. They broke through the fog and tore through the tribulation cloud. The first, second, and third layers. After the 11th layer of lotus petals bloomed, the 12th layer appeared. Grade 12 Creation Green Lotus. The power released by the Creation Green Lotus that connected the world had already reached its limits. The moment it collided with the tall living being, its third head was shattered. Chapter 2682, 2682 Duckweed Sword. 2682 Duckweed Sword. This is. Lin Lei's eyes widened in shock as he exclaimed in disbelief, Creation Green Lotus. Only the Creation Green Lotus could possess such might in the world. Not only that, it was a grade 12 Creation Green Lotus that had already grown to its peak. In Su Zimo's consciousness, a resplendent Tao fruit was condensed. It flowed with a mysterious light and emitted a rather complicated aura. The illumination and nether glowstones released the power of yin and yang and fused all the essence of his dharmic Tao into the Tao fruit, allowing him to advance to the perfected one realm. At the same time, the green lotus true body completed his transformation and was reborn, growing to the peak of grade 12. Su Zimo's blood qi surged. Against the provocation of the tall living being, he could not suppress it at all and released his bloodline phenomenon completely. That was why such a shocking scene appeared in the valley. There was only one creation green lotus in the world and it was a god among plant life forms. Against the impact of the tall living being, the creation green lotus swayed continuously and released green halos, causing the tall living being to be covered in injuries. At the same time, the grade 12 lotus platform had already bloomed in the tribulation clouds. The multicolored light dispersed the tribulation clouds. The tall living being had already lost his power replenishment and it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Right then, an extremely sharp green light burst forth from the body of the creation green lotus and tore through the void, slashing towards the tall living being. The sharpness of the green light was way too strong. Right in front of Lin Zhon and the other three, the entire world seemed to have been sliced into two by the green light. When the green light landed on the tall living being, it entered his body instantly and vanished. Suddenly, peace returned to the world. The tribulation clouds in the sky gradually dissipated. The grade 12 creation green lotus that connected the heavens and the earth gradually disappeared as well. Su Zimo's figure reappeared with black hair and green robes. His eyes were clear and he wielded a long sword that was filled with green light. The tall living being was motionless. Suddenly, the tall living being's body split into two and slid down slowly from midair. The tall living being had just fought Su Zimo for a long time. Even though he was attacked by the primordial Unity Horsetail Whip, Trinity Auspicious Jade and Nine Tails Dragon Phoenix Fan, he was not severely injured. But now, he was split into two by a single strike from Su Zimo's sword. Buzz! Buzz! Lin Lei's gaze shifted and landed on the green sword in Su Zimo's hand. What a powerful spirit treasure! Lin Lei was secretly speechless. The green sword seemed to be even stronger than ordinary Nine Tribulations' pure yang spirit treasures. Its sharpness was something that not many divine weapons and dharmic treasures could defend against. Although Su Zimo had just entered the perfected One realm, even Lin Lei had to be wary of him as long as he wielded the sword. With a thought, the green sword in Su Zimo's hand entered his body and vanished. This was the fourth dharmic treasure derived by the creation Green Lotus when it broke through to grade 12, the duckweed sword. The duckweed sword was formed by the Green Lotus sword condensed from 108 lotus seeds as a sword embryo. Not only did the duckweed sword inherit the essence spirit attack of the Green Lotus sword, it was also the divine weapon with the strongest killing power among the four great spirit treasure. Su Zimo was delighted when he sensed the change in the grade 12 Green Lotus true body. If he could comprehend the peerless divine power of 4 heads 8 arms in the future, it would be perfect for the 9 heavens living soil, Trinity auspicious jade, primordial unity horsetail whip, duckweed sword and 9 tails dragon phoenix fan. His combat strength could definitely rise to another level. Su Zimo did not leave immediately. Instead, he stared fixedly at the sky with a grim expression. He was worried that a 10th tribulation would appear. After waiting for a while more, the world returned to its usual calmness and there were no signs of a heavenly tribulation gathering. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and relax. From the looks of it, the 10th tribulation should be a variable as well. It was because of the appearance of the martial Tao prime body that the variable of the 10th tribulation was born. Although the Green Lotus true body was the only one in the world, it had always existed and did not escape the boundaries of the 3 realms. To be fair, even if the 10th tribulation descended now, Su Zimo was fearless at the most, he would just fight another round. Now that he had already entered the perfected One realm and his Green Lotus true body had grown to the peak of grade 12, he wielded 5 divine weapons and could even fight against the 10th tribulation. Right then, an incomplete memory surged into Su Zimo's mind intermittently. Su Zimo shuddered and his eyes widened. On the shattered and desolate ground, blood floated in the sky and corpses piled up beneath his feet. It was as though the sorrowful cries of billions of living beings could be heard. Everything was disappearing. Everything was being destroyed. The living beings of the 10,000 races and everything in the world were enduring an omnipresent calamity that no one could escape from. In front of him, he saw a blurry apocalyptic scene that was like purgatory. Suddenly, he seemed to have felt an unstoppable force tear his body apart and transmigrate the pieces through the void, scattering everywhere. The intense pain made his body tremble uncontrollably. At the edge of the valley, when they saw Su Zimo successfully transcend the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation, Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long heaved a sigh of relief and exchanged glances with gratified smiles. Immortal Queen Ling Long said, "Since ancient times, in the long river of time, many monster incarnates have attracted the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. However, Zimo is probably the only one who can transcend the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation so easily." Immortal Queen Ling Long was not exaggerating at all. Even if most monster incarnates could survive the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation, they would only have a single breath left. That was the reason why countless experts guarded the surroundings, worried that someone would take advantage of the situation and kill the tribulation transcendence cultivator. There was no one like Su Zimo who used the Green Lotus true body to grow to grade 12 and recover to his peak state at the final juncture of the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. That was also the strength of the creation Green Lotus. Even the martial Tao prime body of the past expended a lot of energy after transcending the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Lin Zhon nodded. "I heard that there's a 10th tribulation for the perfected One heavenly tribulation. From the looks of it, Zimo can survive it even if there's a 10th tribulation." As the two of them were chatting, Lin Luo suddenly said, "Father, Mother, look, what happened to Brother Su?" Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long hurriedly looked over. Su Zimo stood in midair with widened eyes, as though he had seen something terrifying. Fear and pain flashed through the depths of his eyes. Immediately after, Su Zimo's body trembled continuously. He bent down and his body was hunched. It was unknown what pain he was enduring, but he was even convulsing with a pale face and sweat all over. Well, seeing this, Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long were anxious and confused. They did not know what Su Zimo was experiencing and did not dare to advance rashly. Could this be the 10th tribulation? If Su Zimo was experiencing the 10th tribulation, they would only harm Su Zimo if they went forward rashly and caused a variance to the 10th tribulation. However, if it was not the 10th tribulation, what could have happened to Su Zimo? Was there any danger? Chapter 2683 Showdown. 2683 Showdown. Just as Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long were hesitating if they should go forward, Su Zimo, who was originally on the verge of collapse, gradually stabilized himself in midair and calmed down. Lin Zhon, Immortal Queen Ling Long and the other two hurriedly went forward. Zimo, what's going on? Lin Zhon asked in a deep voice with a concerned expression. Su Zimo stood up straight. The sweat on his face had yet to subside and he had a dazed expression as he panted slightly, as though he had expended even more energy than when he had just undergone tribulation transcendent. A moment later, he returned to his senses and looked at Lin Zhon, Immortal Queen Ling Long and the others. He shook his head. Don't worry, seniors. I'm fine. It's just that. Pausing for a moment, Su Zimo frowned. It's just that an incomplete memory suddenly flashed through my mind. It should be from the creation Green Lotus. Lineage memories? Immortal Queen Ling Long's eyes lit up. This memory must be very important for a divine item like the creation Green Lotus to pass it down. Generally speaking, most lineage memories contained dharmic dows and secret skills. Many powerful living beings and races would awaken their lineage memories after growing to a certain stage and cultivating to a certain realm. However, the incomplete memory that appeared in Su Zimo's mind earlier on should not be a dharmic dao. That incomplete memory was of no use to him and appeared inexplicably. Su Zimo shook his head and put away that incomplete memory for the time being. No matter what, he had finally stepped into the perfected One realm today and the Green Lotus true body had grown to the peak of grade 12. His gains were immense. Zimo, what are your plans for the future? Lin Zhon asked. Su Zimo pondered for a moment with a solemn expression. I have to return to Heaven and Earth Academy. There are some things that I have to clarify and understand. On the one hand, Dao Yarrow was still in Heaven and Earth Academy. Su Zimo already had the intention to leave, but there was no way he could leave Dao Yarrow in Heaven and Earth Academy. If he left without saying goodbye, it would be equivalent to placing Dao Yarrow in danger. On the other hand, up till now, the sect master of the academy was still his master in name. It would be unreasonable for him to leave Heaven and Earth Academy just because he suspected the other party. After all, the sect master of the academy had once saved his life. At his most dangerous moment, Heaven and Earth Academy was the one who protected him. However, if the mastermind behind this was really the sect master of the academy, he would not feel any burden leaving Heaven and Earth Academy and would not have a knot in his heart. Now that this game of chess had come to this, it was time to lay his cards on the table. Lin Zhon frowned. If my cultivation had recovered to its peak, I could accompany you to Heaven and Earth Academy. But now, given Lin Zhon's current state, he would not even be able to protect himself if he really encountered a top Immortal King expert, let alone protect Su Zimo. Immortal Queen Ling Long shook her head as well. You can't return directly. If our guess is true, you probably won't be able to leave the academy after you return. Seniors, don't worry. I have my own plans. Su Zimo replied ambiguously. There were some things that he did not dare to say. It was not because he was worried that the human monarch, Immortal Queen Ling Long and the other two would expose it, but because he was afraid of the sect master of the academy's scheme. The sect master of the academy was known for his flawless calculations and omniscience. There were some things that would leave a mark in the world once he said them out loud and might be captured by the sect master of the academy. Immortal Queen Ling Long's heart skipped a beat as she vaguely guessed Su Zimo's plan. She smiled and nodded slightly. She was relieved and asked, "Where do you intend to head to after you leave the academy, Zimo?" "I don't know." Su Zimo shook his head. "Perhaps I'll leave the heavenly world." That move was truly out of helplessness. The martial Dao Prime body had lost contact with him and his whereabouts and fate were unknown. Although there was Feng Kantian presiding over Tianhuang's sect, he was not enough to protect Su Zimo. On Lin Zhon's side, he had yet to recover from his injuries and was in a precarious situation with internal and external troubles. If he stayed with Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long, it was very likely that he would bring a calamity to the Battle Kingdom and even implicate Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long. There were no experts or sects in the entire heavenly world who could protect him. If he really broke off ties with Heaven and Earth Academy, he could only leave the heavenly world. Immortal Queen Ling Long sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. "All right, follow us back first. The Battle Kingdom has a teleportation formation to an ancient star outside the heavenly world. You can teleport there directly. I'll give you a copy of the world map of the Trichilia Chasm. You can decide which world you want to head to." As she spoke, Immortal Queen Ling Long took out a map and placed it between her brows. In more than 10 breaths, she made a copy and handed it to Su Zimo. Immortal Queen Ling Long continued, "The distance between worlds is long. If you travel through the starry skies of the Trichilia Chasm, you'll be met with countless threats and dangers. For example, don't approach ancient forbidden zones and the black hole of the cosmos. Most importantly, you have to guard against bandits of the starry skies who roam the area." Before returning to the Battle Kingdom, Immortal Queen Ling Long reminded Su Zimo of many things. The world outside the heavenly world would only be even more dangerous, he must not be careless. The 5 of them arrived at the palace of the Battle Kingdom. Immortal Queen Ling Long sent Lin Lei and Lin Luo away before bringing Su Zimo to the teleportation formation of the Battle Kingdom with Lin Zhon. "Be careful on the way." Lin Zhon and Immortal Queen Ling Long looked at Su Zimo, who had stepped onto the teleportation formation, and reminded him one last time. Su Zimo nodded and activated the teleportation formation. When the teleportation formation circulated, 2 different lights lit up, representing 2 completely different destinations. One of them was Heaven and Earth Academy. The other was an ancient star outside the heavenly world, the Wither Star. The light of the teleportation formation lit up and 2 figures suddenly appeared on it. They entered different lights and disappeared. Heaven and Earth Academy. Suddenly, beams of light lit up in the teleportation hall. Immediately after, a figure appeared. He had black hair and green robes and had the sect badge of the academy hanging on his waist. "Greetings, Senior Brother Su." When the surrounding cultivators saw that, they hurried forward and bowed. Ever since the Divine Firmament Immortal meet, Su Zimo's reputation in Heaven and Earth Academy had reached its peak. Although he had yet to truly enter the legacy ground, his reputation had already faintly surpassed Sword Immortal Yu Hua. After all, Su Zimo was the number 1 on the Heaven ranking and top Heaven Immortal of the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. Furthermore, Sword Immortal Yu Hua suffered a huge loss against him at the Divine Firmament Immortal meet, and the sect master of the academy personally sent a message to protect Su Zimo. Later on, it was said that Su Zimo even attacked at the 9 Firmament meet and almost killed a prince. When news of those spread to Heaven and Earth Academy, Su Zimo's status in the hearts of many academy disciples rose once more. Su Zimo nodded in return to the surrounding disciples of the academy before leaving gracefully towards his cave abode. "I wonder what cultivation realm Senior Brother Su has cultivated to. He has already become unfathomable. Could he have already advanced into the perfected One realm?" Someone suddenly asked. "Impossible." Another person said, "Su Zimo just broke through to become a grade 9 Heaven Immortal at the Divine Firmament Immortal meet. How long has it been since?" Earlier on, everyone went forward and bowed, but none of them bothered to check with their spirit consciousnesses. On the other side, Su Zimo advanced through the academy and arrived before his cave abode before long. There did not seem to be any changes around the cave abode and everything was as usual. Chapter 2684 Choice. 2684 Choice. The moment Su Zimo entered the cave abode, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. Before long, 2 figures welcomed him, Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping. Senior brother, you're back. Liu Ping said with a smile. Su Zimo nodded and looked deeply at Liu Ping with a hint of hesitation in the depths of his eyes. This time round, he was definitely going to find a safe place for Dao Yarrow to settle down. As for Liu Ping, he was still a little hesitant. All these years, although Liu Ping had cultivated beside him all year round, at the end of the day, he was still a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy. It was indeed a little difficult for Liu Ping to make a choice between him and Heaven and Earth Academy. Furthermore, Liu Ping was different from Dao Yarrow. If he really betrayed Heaven and Earth Academy, Dao Yarrow would definitely follow him without hesitation. However, he did not know what choice Liu Ping would make. However, Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping had been by each other's side all these years and were long used to it. It was rare for Dao Yarrow to have a playmate like Liu Ping by his side so that he would not be too lonely. The two of them had an extremely good relationship and talked about everything. If he left Liu Ping in Heaven and Earth Academy this time round, it might be a form of harm to both Liu Ping and Dao Yarrow. Su Zimo walked into the cave abode with Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping by his side. Liu Ping did not stop talking and recounted everything that had happened in Heaven and Earth Academy over the past few days. Right. Liu Ping continued, I heard that sword Immortal Yuhua was almost crippled by a peerless divine power of desolate marshal of the fiend domain at the Nine Firmament meet. It was even the sect master of the academy who saved his life personally. At that time, under the protection of the Grand Elder of the academy, sword Immortal Yuhua was still beaten black and blue by eternal damnation of the martial Dao Prime body and even lost an arm. Logically speaking, sword Immortal Yuhua would definitely die after suffering such a serious injury. Furthermore, he would be tormented to death. Even the Grand Elder of the academy was helpless. To think that he would still be saved by the sect master of the academy. Liu Ping pouted. However, I heard that sword Immortal Yuhua merely managed to survive. The injuries in his body have yet to recover. At the very least, his severed arm has yet to regenerate and is still recuperating in seclusion. It's said that after being severely injured, sword Immortal Yuhua no longer has the chance to break through to the Grotto Heaven realm. From now on, the position of the number one legacy disciple has to be given to others. Due to the bad relationship between Su Zimo and sword Immortal Yuhua, Liu Ping was also hostile towards sword Immortal Yuhua and sounded like he was gloating. Has anyone come to look for me these past few days? Su Zimo asked. Senior brother Yang and senior sister Kai Hong came to look for you once. Pausing for a moment, Liu Ping continued, senior sister Mo Qing came to look for you 7 times. After saying that, he looked at Su Zimo with a grin and said exultantly, Senior brother Su, when you enter the perfected one realm and become a personal disciple of the sect master, you'll be able to be with senior sister Mo Qing day and night. Now that sword Immortal Yuhua is out of the picture, I think you'll definitely be the number one legacy disciple of the academy in the future, senior brother Su. Su Zimo had a calm expression and remained silent. Before parting this time round, he indeed had to greet young Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. As for senior sister Mo Qing, Su Zimo still did not know if he should bid farewell to senior sister Mo Qing. Mo Qing must have come to visit him to ask about the martial Dao Prime body. However, the martial Dao Prime body was one of his greatest secrets and he had no choice but to hide it from Mo Qing. Therefore, every time he faced Mo Qing, he would feel conflicted and a little guilty. Dao Yarrow did not speak the entire time. He had accompanied Su Zimo for many years and could vaguely sense that something was amiss with Su Zimo, as though there was something on his mind. Young master, what happened? Dao Yarrow asked softly. When Liu Ping heard Dao Yarrow speak, he looked at Su Zimo instinctively with a puzzled expression. Su Zimo returned to the hall of the cave abode and sat in the middle for a long time without saying anything. The atmosphere in the hall became heavy and oppressive. After a long while, Su Zimo seemed to have made a decision. He looked up at Liu Ping and asked in a deep voice, Liu Ping, let me ask you something. You have to answer it carefully and seriously. Ah. Liu Ping was stunned for a moment. However, he reacted quickly and said seriously, Senior brother, ask ahead. Su Zimo said, if I choose to leave Heaven and Earth Academy, do you want to leave with me or stay here? Of course I'm following you. Liu Ping blurted out. However, he paused when he saw Su Zimo's expression. He realized that the meaning of Su Zimo's words might not be as simple as just leaving Heaven and Earth Academy for a short while. When Su Zimo saw that Liu Ping understood what he meant, he nodded slightly. Don't worry, I'll respect you no matter what choice you make. Liu Ping shrugged slightly and said without hesitation, although I don't understand why you would want to leave Heaven and Earth Academy, I'll definitely follow you guys. Liu Ping's reaction was beyond Su Zimo's expectations. After all, Liu Ping was an inner sect disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy. Given Liu Ping's talent, he would definitely be able to advance to the perfected One Realm in the future and become a legacy disciple of the Academy. What kind of status was that? However, if he followed Su Zimo, he would only be reduced to an ordinary Dao child. Initially, Su Zimo thought that Liu Ping would hesitate for a long time between him and Heaven and Earth Academy. To think that Liu Ping would make a decision so quickly. If I leave Heaven and Earth Academy, I might never return. Su Zimo reminded once more. I know. Liu Ping said nonchalantly, it's just betraying the Academy. It's no big deal. Senior brother Su, my life was saved by you and you taught me all my abilities. I won't proclaim that I know about what's right or wrong. After all, there are many people out there who can twist the truth. However, I know clearly in my heart that I'm always indebted to you. When he heard Liu Ping's words, Su Zimo nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. If Liu Ping really chose to stay in Heaven and Earth Academy, he would not do anything to Liu Ping either. He would merely settle Dao Yarrow down. Young master, what happened? Dao Yarrow asked again. Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping exchanged glances. They knew that Su Zimo would definitely not ask such a question unless something major happened. It's hard to say yet. Su Zimo shook his head gently. The two of you, head to the Academy's teleportation formation now and teleport to the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom to look for Princess Yunju. Unless I head over to look for you guys personally, don't leave no matter what news you hear or if anyone sends a message. Currently, the only place Su Zimo could think of to settle Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping down was the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom. Firstly, Yunju had once come to the Academy and said in front of everyone that Dao Yarrow was her Dao child. When Dao Yarrow returned to Yunju's side, no one would say anything. Secondly, no matter who the mastermind was, it was impossible for them to become enemies with the Zixuan Immortal Kingdom just because of two Dao children. The person who set this up was after the creation Green Lotus and not the two Dao children. Thirdly, Yunju had enough strength to protect Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping. Chapter 2685, 2685 True Appearance of Desolate Marshal. 2685 True Appearance of Desolate Marshal. Heaven and Earth Academy, Legacy Ground. In a cave abode, the decoration was simple and elegant, emitting a faint fragrance. The cave abode was quiet and there was only a faint rustling sound occasionally. It was a beautiful woman sitting sideways with a piece of rice paper beside her. She held a brush and was focused on painting. The woman was completely immersed in the painting and her eyes were clear as water. A snow-white butterfly landed on the woman's shoulder and flapped its wings gently. One person, one butterfly, one brush and one painting. This scene was a flawless painting to begin with. After an unknown period of time, the woman heaved a sigh of relief and broke free from the painting before her. Didn't you already decide not to think about him? Why are you still drawing that person? Suddenly, the snow-white butterfly spoke in human language and asked crisply. On the painting, there was only a human figure with black hair and purple robes. Just by standing with his hands behind his back, he exuded a powerful aura. Even through the paper, one could sense the pressure he gave off. However, there was something strange about the black-haired, purple-robed man in the painting. There was only a pair of deep eyes on his face that burned with mysterious purple flames. Apart from that pair of eyes, no other facial features were drawn. Even so, if this painting was taken out, most of the cultivators at the Nine Firmament meet would be able to recognize at a glance that the person on the painting was Desolate Marshal of the Fiend Domain. When she heard the snow-white butterfly's question, the woman lowered her head slightly and fell silent. After a while, she raised her head. Before the Nine Firmament meet, I had just comprehended the fiend figure of the divine ghost Immortal fiend diagram and was able to advance to the paradise void realm of the perfected one realm. So, the snow-white butterfly was puzzled and asked again, I've never understood why you skipped the ghost and immortal figures to comprehend the fiend figure first when you've already comprehended the god figure. The woman extended her slender hand and placed it on the painting in front of her. Gradually, her fingers brushed past the blank face of desolate marshal of the fiend domain and a moving expression flashed through her beautiful eyes. This should have been a cold silver mask. The woman said slowly, I met him once more at the 9 firmament meet. Perhaps I can use the dharmic Tao of the fiend figure to comprehend his eyes and eventually draw his true appearance. Huh? The snow-white butterfly was slightly surprised and asked, You can draw the true appearance of desolate marshal of the fiend domain? I'm not sure either. The woman shook her head gently and paused for a moment before saying, However, I have a sense of déjà vu about his eyes. I should be able to give it a try. That's great. The snow-white butterfly said excitedly, I'm curious as well. What does desolate marshal look like under his mask? Could it be because he has a green face, fangs, and looks fierce? Maybe that's why he's wearing a mask to cover himself because he's afraid of scaring people. Maybe. The woman chuckled as well. The snow-white butterfly continued, By the way, if we can draw his appearance and tear the painting apart, won't we be able to condense him? No. The woman shook her head. His dharmic Tao is way too mysterious and I can't draw it. In the woman's heart, even if she could draw it, she did not want to do so. In her heart, desolate marshal of the fiend domain had an extremely special status. She did not want this painting to become a dharmic treasure and weapon that could be torn apart at any moment. The woman took a deep breath and her brush hovered above the face of the figure in the painting before closing her eyes. She sensed the dharmic Tao of the fiend figure and recalled her 2 encounters with desolate marshal of the fiend domain as well as his eyes that burned with purple flames. With that, she followed a strange feeling in her heart. The brush in the woman's hand finally landed and she drew gently on the painting. The teleportation formation of the academy. Su Zimo sent Dao Yarrow and Liu Ping to the teleportation formation and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the 2 of them leave Heaven and Earth Academy. The moment Su Zimo walked out of the teleportation hall, 2 figures sped over not far away and descended before him in the blink of an eye. Su Zimo looked up. The 2 of them were Jiu Yu and Mu Shan, 2 Dao children of the sect master of the academy. He had only seen them once. Senior brother Su, follow us to Heaven and Earth Palace immediately. The sect master has been waiting for a long time. Jiu Yu cupped his fists slightly. Su Zimo had a calm expression and was not surprised by this scene. Initially, he wanted to bid farewell to young Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. From the looks of it, he probably had no chance. Go on. Su Zimo waved it off and said indifferently. When Jiu Yu and Mu Shan saw that Su Zimo did not seem to notice anything, they exchanged glances and smiled meaningfully. The 3 of them made their way towards Heaven and Earth Palace. Jiu Yu smiled. Senior brother Su, I didn't expect you to advance to the perfected one realm so quickly. Congratulations. Indeed. Mu Shan smiled as well. Do allow us to keep you in suspense, senior brother Su. There's another huge opportunity awaiting you now that you've become a perfected immortal. Su Zimo smiled without saying anything. Before long, the 3 of them arrived in the depths of the academy and arrived at Heaven and Earth Palace. As though it sensed the arrival of the 3 of them, the clouds in midair gathered and a cloud bridge appeared that led to Heaven and Earth Palace. The 3 of them stepped onto the cloud bridge and entered the main hall in the blink of an eye. Immortal Qi lingered in the hall as a figure sat on a cushion and hovered in midair, faintly discernible. After Jiu Yu and Mu Shan brought Su Zimo over, they returned to the back of the figure and stood on both sides with their hands by their sides. Suddenly, 2 balls of blazing light lit up in the fog of Immortal Qi. Under the cover of the 2 lights, the sect master of the academy's figure became incomparably clear. The sect master of the academy wore a green Confucian robe and sat upright. His forehead was abnormally broad and his eyes were like the starry skies as he looked at Su Zimo not far away with a satisfied expression. Greetings, master. Suzimo stepped forward and bowed. The sect master of the academy nodded slightly. Not bad, not bad. To think that your cultivation realm would break through after the 9 firmament meet and you've already entered the perfected 1 realm. Suddenly, the eyes of the sect master of the academy turned deep and vast with a glint in them. If I'm not wrong, your green lotus true body should have grown to the peak of grade 12 as well. Yes. Suzimo nodded with a calm expression. Naturally, such a thing could not be hidden from the sect master of the academy. The sect master of the academy smiled gently. Zimo, how has the academy treated you all these years? Very well. Suzimo said, back in the Coiling Dragon mountain range, if not for the academy taking me in, I would have died. Over the years, whenever anything happened, the academy dealt with it fairly as well. The sect master of the academy nodded and asked again, how have I treated you? Suzimo took a deep breath of air. Master, you saved me once. Back when I condensed the 10th step of the Tao Heart Stairs, you even accepted me as an in-name disciple and thought highly of me. That's right. The sect master of the academy had a gratified expression. The fact that you said those words proves that I didn't misjudge you. My efforts weren't in vain. Chapter 2686, 2686 Monster. 2686 Monster. The sect master of the academy said, actually, when the academy takes in disciples, the first thing we value is talent and the second is character. Every disciple of the academy has to know how to repay kindness. Ungrateful people will be despised by the entire academy and even all the righteous people in the world. Suzimo was expressionless and remained silent. The sect master of the academy smiled. Since you've already entered the perfected 1 realm, I can give you an opportunity. I hope you can grasp it well. Master, please enlighten me. Suzimo said politely. The sect master of the academy said, the creation green lotus is unique in the world and a grade 12 creation green lotus is even rarer. My cultivation realm has been stuck at the perfected grotto heaven realm for many years and I need to refine an immortal pill before there's a chance for me to break through. The most important herb for the immortal pill is the creation green lotus. Here it comes. Suzimo sneered internally. So, sect master, you want my life? Suzimo's tone was cold and he no longer addressed the sect master of the academy as his master. The sect master of the academy smiled and said gently, you've misunderstood. Since it's an opportunity prepared for you, how could it hurt your life? Oh. Suzimo did not let down his guard yet as he looked at the sect master of the academy coldly, waiting for an explanation. The sect master of the academy said, indeed, you have to sacrifice yourself for the time being to refine the immortal pill. However, don't worry, I'll make preparations for your reincarnation. As for me, if I can break through and become a quasi-emperor after obtaining this immortal pill, the status of the academy in the divine firmament immortal domain will rise as well. Suzimo sneered. After beating around the bush, the sect master of the academy still wanted his life. His actions were no different from King Yun Yu's. Even perfected immortals who cultivated to the hollow nether realm of the perfected 1 realm did not have a high chance of reincarnation, let alone someone like him who had just entered the perfected 1 realm. There were many perfected immortals in the entire divine firmament immortal domain. However, there were very few perfected immortals who were truly reborn and lived a second life. Once he died and his soul entered reincarnation, no one knew what would happen. Even with the protection of immortal king experts, the entire process could not be controlled. The sect master of the academy continued, I've heard about the 9 firmament meet. Although Yuhua survived, the remnant power of eternal damnation remains in his body. His future achievements will be limited now that he has lost an arm. After you reincarnate, I'll guide you back to the academy personally and confer you the title of the number 1 legacy disciple of the academy. After you return, I'll personally make the decision for you and Mo Qing to become Tao companions. After your rebirth, I'll impart the Dharmic Tao to you personally. It'll definitely make you stronger in your second life. Suzimo looked at the sect master of the academy and a chill suddenly rose in his heart. Although everything the sect master of the academy said seemed to be for his own good and some opportunity prepared for him, in reality, it was to take his life. The sect master of the academy's seemingly kind face was even more terrifying than King Yu. King Yu had never hidden his intentions. He straight up wanted to kill Su Zimo and get his hands on the Green Lotus true body. From the beginning to the end, the sect master of the academy had a gentle tone and a smile. However, not only did the sect master of the academy want Su Zimo's life, he even wanted Su Zimo to be grateful for it. The sect master of the academy wanted Su Zimo to believe that everything he did was for his own good and an opportunity prepared for him. Not only did he want Su Zimo to die, he wanted Su Zimo to die willingly. In Su Zimo's eyes, there seemed to be a monster hidden beneath the skin of the sect master of the academy. The Tao child behind the sect master of the academy, Gu, suddenly shouted softly and reminded, "Senior brother Su, hurry up and thank the sect master. The sect master's kindness to you is as vast as the seas. You really make us envious. Hee hee." Su Zimo laughed and raised his brow slightly. "If the sect master wants you to die now and give you a chance to reincarnate, will you be willing?" "Of course I'd be willing." Gu puffed out his chest and said without hesitation, "It's a pity that my body can't refine medicine and I can't help the sect master. I'm not willing." Su Zimo said slowly. The other Tao child, Mu Shan, berated, "Senior brother Su, don't be ungrateful. Not everyone is qualified to obtain such an opportunity." The sect master of the academy did not seem surprised or angry by Su Zimo's reaction. He merely waved his hand gently to stop the two Tao children. The sect master of the academy said gently, "Zimo, I know that you'll definitely be conflicted upon hearing this arrangement. However, you have to know that sacrificing your current life will increase the overall strength and status of the academy. One has to be magnanimous and think about the big picture. We mustn't be too selfish. Furthermore, you won't die with your Tao lost. I'll personally take action to protect you during your reincarnation, you can rest assured about that." Su Zimo smiled. The current sect master of the academy was even more terrifying than all the fiends he had encountered. Although he spoke of benevolence, righteousness, fairness and the greater good, all he wanted to do was to take advantage of others. Su Zimo said, "Didn't you say earlier that you would be refining my Green Lotus true body for yourself? How is it for the academy?" "Of course." The sect master of the academy had a calm expression. "As the sect master of the academy, the higher my cultivation realm, the higher the status of the academy." "Not necessarily." Su Zimo shook his head gently. "In my opinion, your ambition is too great and will bring about a calamity to the academy. Sacrificing your current life will bring hope for the academy. In that case, are you willing to die?" "How dare you?" Gu's gaze was like lightning as he berated loudly. Mu Shan said coldly as well, "Su Zimo, how dare you speak to the sect master like that? Do you have a death wish?" The sect master of the academy shook his head gently and the smile on his face did not disappear still. However, a hint of disappointment flashed through his eyes. "Zimo, based on your disrespectful words earlier on, I can kill you according to the sect rules." "Ha ha ha ha." Su Zimo burst into laughter. "According to the sect rules, sect master, you've harmed your fellow sect mate by wanting to take my life earlier on. You deserve to die as well." The sect master of the academy wanted to continue with the farce but Su Zimo could no longer be bothered. The sect master of the academy gradually retracted his smile. "Su Zimo, you said earlier on that I saved your life and think highly of you. Your gratitude towards me should be as vast as the seas. Could it be that you want to be an ungrateful disciple who betrays his own master?" Su Zimo's gaze was dark as he said slowly, "If I'm truly indebted to you, I'll naturally repay you. However, what you mentioned earlier on was probably just a part of your arrangements to begin with, wasn't it? Sect master, why bother hiding at this point? Back then, I participated in the Immortal sect selection in the Coiling Dragon Mountain range. Initially, I had no intention of joining Heaven and Earth Academy. Later on, by a freak combination of circumstances, I joined the academy. If I'm not wrong, that should have been your doing. Back then, after the 10,000-year meet, someone intercepted us halfway and you saved us. You were the one who arranged for this assassin, right?" You schemed behind my back and manipulated my fate because you wanted me to join Heaven and Earth Academy and cultivate the Green Lotus true body to the peak of grade 12 under your surveillance. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.